Logic. Today's show was recorded on July the 31st, 2018. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, tonight's wildcard,
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the games that we played this week. We're going to be going over our July Game Club, which is Fallout New Vegas. We'll be talking a little bit about what we're going to be doing for next month's Game Club, which we've already said, so spoilers, Fallout New Vegas again. We'll also be discussing some news topics. A Steam game is accused of scamming players and crypto mining. The PUBG Corp details its 5 years esports plan, but yet they say they're not esports ready. And we're going to have our Steam Discovery queue this week. No Community Corner. But that's alright, because timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage. How are you today?
Doing, well, somewhat okay. I'm still kind of waking up. I had a nap. And, the cobwebs are still there.
Yeah, I didn't have a nap, so fingers crossed there won't be falling asleep like an hour and a half in.
Well, if I just hear a thunk and then snoring, we know what happened.
Yeah. I'm also a little bit off kilter this evening because we got started not too late, but a little bit late. My kid is starting pre-K this year, so we had to go to school orientation, and it was boring, and it was in like the gym, and it was really hot.
Of course, because they can't have it in an air-conditioned portion of the school.
No, they can't. But his teacher seems like a really nice lady, and she gave him candy, which, yay. But it was all right. It's fine.
What bribery at such a young age?
So we got home a little bit late.
And it's not stickers? Blasphemy!
He did get stickers too, but he got like all the kids got like little goodie bags with a sucker and some stickers and some kind of like owl-looking stuffed toy thing. I assume those were just like on sale or something. And there was one other thing in there. I don't remember what it was. But yeah, it was cute. But we got home a little bit late, and they had dinner, and I wound up not eating dinner for reasons that involve things that would probably gross you out, so I won't talk about them. But I'm doing better now.
There's a start.
I'm doing better now. So, might have some dinner halfway through here. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Off kilter. It's fine. It's fine. We'll do it live. We'll press on. Because that's what we do. I think. So yeah, let's
just like we took some sort of massive head trauma,
Indeed. So let's just dive in. Rach, what games have you played this week?
Well, I've got 2 of them this week, and one is going to be very short, and the other one is probably not going to be as short. But then again, that's kind of how things usually play out for this sort of thing. I got a review copy of This Is the Police 2, and I intended to do a video on it, but I hit a show-stopping bug where my computer just did not like the tactics portion of this game, so it was locking up. So I wasn't able to record it, but I played enough to have thoughts on it. And most of my thoughts are, ugh. Which is a shame because I actually really liked the first one. I think my biggest problem with this game is, well, at least in the 1.0 version, because they've already released a patch and addressed the balance issues. Potentially. They at least said that they are. But in the review copy and the release version, because they actually accidentally hit the big red button a couple of days early, so it was not supposed to come out for another couple of days, but it got released anyway. There should be some sort of safety cover over the big red button, shouldn't there?
Yeah, there should be.
Yeah, it's one of those things you flip up, and it has that alarm playing. Are you sure you want to do this? But yeah, my biggest problem with This Is the Police 2. Well, I have several problems with it, but my biggest one is what I'm going to call the failure conga, where snowballs very, very, very quickly if you screw up once. And screwing up can be completely out of your control as well, which is even more fun. So, I guess I should say what This Is the Police 2 is, then we'll go from there. This Is the Police is a mixture of a graphic novel or a visual novel, but even though it's not the traditional visual novel sense, but cutscene heavy. I mean, very, very cutscene heavy. The first half an hour is essentially just one long series of cutscenes. Management, real-time strategy, and light XCOM, turn-based strategy. You play Jack Boyd from the original This Is the Police. He is on the run and hiding out in this little town called Sharpwood. And through a rather strange turn of events that could only happen in Hollywood, he ends up essentially leading the police force in this small town. Mind you, he is a fairly wanted criminal at this point because of the events of the first game. And they don't do any sort of recap of the first game. So if you hadn't played the first one to completion, which I didn't, because towards the middle of that game, it starts to drag, where it has a lot of filler content and not a lot of real story. It doesn't, help you. It doesn't give you any, last time on This Is the Police or, any sort of backstory. It just throws you into the deep end, which isn't a bad thing, but it would have been nice to have some sort of catch up, Right. Especially since they are pricing this at a bargain price of $15 on release. So, through some rather weird circumstances, you end up leading the police force in this town that's lost 2 cops in the last few days, including the sheriff. So the interim sheriff, Lily Reed, is more of an administrator than actual leader. And everybody is just walking all over her. So Jack sees this opportunity to essentially get himself out of jail because he got arrested not because of anything that he did, but because the local gang was hiding drugs out under the house that he was renting. And this game is pretty much essentially, any Hollywood corrupt cop story. I mean, more so than the first game, which the first game could get a little bit out there at times, but it still felt grounded. This one, in the first set of cutscenes, one of the officers is literally saying, give me a reason to blow your brains out, while Jack is prone on a table with the gun to his head. Just way over the top,
Yeah.
Granted, he does get his revenge later, but it's comical almost. Oh, but yeah. And there's this weird story gameplay segregation that really doesn't make any sense, because Jack Boyd, the character, which is voiced by his Dukeness himself, John St. John.
Nice.
Is this no-nonsense, will beat the hell out of his subordinates because they backtalk him in the cutscenes, but during the management portion of the game, you're walked all the fuck over. So that's where the start of the failure of Congo really originates, is that because this is a small town, you're actually dealing with a smaller pool of policemen and women, of course. Police people. Or policemen people. Or I don't know. What's politically correct these days?
Police officers.
Okay, thank you. So, the police officers are children. I mean, they're not children, but they act like children. They're spoiled. Unless you do something to earn their respect, which is a random event, they'll be just completely insubordinate to the point where it's laughable to try to get them to work together. For example, in the starting set, you have this woman who refuses to work with anybody that she views less professional than herself. But she's also in the top 25% of the professional standing. So she won't work with 3/4 of the force to begin with, which is fucking frustrating. And they don't say it at the beginning whenever you're setting up your shifts. There's another officer that is pretty much one of my best men on the force who refuses to work with any woman. There's several that are drunkards that will come in, completely plastered, and if you send them on a call, there's a high chance that they'll actually wreck the car and be out of action for several days, or just killed outright. There's several layabouts where they'll just do one call, maybe, and they won't do anything else. So you're having to take essentially just pages and pages of notes to figure out the right combination. And this game punishes you for not knowing the information that it doesn't give you, because if you set up your shift wrong for the next day to bring in the wrong sort of people, like the woman that refuses to work with anybody that she deems less professional than herself, well, if she's brought in and she's the top dog that day, or the professionalism status, by the way, essentially your experience points. And as you get more professionalism as they go out and do successful calls, they level up and get traits. But if she's the top person, she won't work with anyone, and she refuses to go out by herself. So, what the fuck?
Yeah, that sounds like a problem.
Oh, yeah. And it's very, very easy to lose the respect of the officers because, well, let's put it this way. I had one that I lost respect for because I tried to equip him with a baton. He didn't like batons.
Okay.
And when you lose the respect, they start acting up a lot more. And they also seem to be less effective on calls, which this ties into the management systems where throughout the day, you'll get calls, all right? Yeah. Think of it as like 911 dispatcher, where you're looking down the map. It's pretty much verbatim from the first game. And a call will come in, for example, some of them are rather wacky, drunk person, but then you start getting rather more serious ones like, and I'm not joking on this one, a grandmother caught her grandson masturbating and is threatening to castrate him with a sickle.
Wow.
So each call has a certain threshold of professionalism, like I said, is your essentially overall experience. And you have, I think, 7 or 8 slots for police officers to send out. And if you do not meet their threshold, you cannot send anyone, which is like in the first game, but you have a lot smaller pool, and there's a lot more infighting between the individual officers. So there's several times that you'll have to replay the day over and over and over again, Groundhog's Day style, because a random event happened during one of these calls that may have knocked out someone that just caused a conga line of failure to the point where you lose essentially the entire day of progression because, your top guy gets hurt. Well, you also have, the bitchy woman who refuses to work with anyone that she deems less professional, essentially lower level than her, and won't go out by herself. So because of that, you're essentially down 2 people now. Well, your other guys, you may have one that's just sitting there, spinning in his chair going, call back. And you may have a drunkard that you don't want to send out, but you may have to anyway because, everybody else is just being little whiny children, or if you don't send them out, you're not going to meet their threshold to begin with. And this is on top of the stat system, because as you level up, the officers get points in, I believe it was six stats. Things like strength, intelligence, stealth, negotiation, and I'm shooting, and I'm blanking on the sixth one. And these stats essentially are controlling the behind-the-scenes dice rolls on these calls. So if you send out, let's take the sickle grandma for an example. If you send someone out that doesn't have a good negotiation, you try to talk her down, you have a higher chance of failure, and she may attack the officers and may kill one. So, yeah. So you have a secondary thing on top of all the management, which isn't a bad thing on itself, but the fact that the officers are being such bastards to one another to begin with makes it exceptionally frustrating. And then, on top of all of this, can you tell this game kind of pissed me off?
Yeah, it's... And you're not describing something that sounds like really good or anything like it. It sounds like it's got a lot of design issues.
Yeah, this has some design issues. It is fixable, but it needs a lot of work. At the end of the day, you get your currency, which is beer tabs, because why not, right?
Beer tabs?
Yeah. It turns out the police department has a drinking problem or something. But there's a reason why there's a different currency for the essentially the progression system compared to actual dollars, which we'll get to in a little bit. Well, you are able to cash out beer tabs to buy new officers or new equipment. And like I said before, I pissed off one of the officers because I tried to give him a baton. Well, you only get an option of buying 3 things at a time or buying different officers. And you kind of want to start building out your pool very quickly. Because, shit happens, right? And also,
right.
All the officers also have a stamina meter. And as you send them on calls, they get more tired. Which the more tired they are, the more likely they are to wreck because they fell asleep at the wheel because they were overworked. Which, okay, I understand that one. But, some of these officers, refuse to come in anyway, or will just no-show, which is also a pain in the ass. So you may end up having to make some sacrifices. But the beer tab system, you're rewarded for catching criminals, either killing them or just capturing them outright, going to calls, completing the tactical portion of the game, which we'll get to. Or you lose them by not answering calls. For example, if things turn out poorly and you're unable to meet the threshold. Criminals getting away, which could be pretty arbitrary based on you essentially have 2 or 3 multiple choice things that you could do to on a call that's an actual call and not a false alarm. Civilians dying, which is compounded by the failure to meet calls. So, sickle grandma, by the way, is an actual real call. And if you don't meet the threshold, you not only lose tabs for not answering the call, but you lose tabs because a civilian died and a suspect got away. So you got a triple failure there. All right? So you have all that. And also officers getting injured and dying also count against you. Which I understand the dying part, but injuries? Really? And it's not anything that's in your bank is saved. You could have a good day the previous day and, be building up to try to buy a couple of officers the next day. But then you have a day where things just fall apart, either due to the conga or due to a story event, which there are events in the story where it has a forced failure state where it is literally impossible to answer all the calls. So, you could have a day where your entire progression is completely wiped out, including anything you had previously on the beer tab system. And it's just unspeakably frustrating to try to build up your police force because of that. Then let's get to the tactical portion of the game, because why not? So,
Okay.
The tactical portion is essentially a light XCOM game where I actually kind of like the tactical system for save of one major thing, which I'll get to. Well, as the officers level up and you assign stat points to them, you also unlock traits, which happens pretty quickly, and you get a large pool of traits. You're able to bring 4 in for each officer. So essentially, able to really customize for each individual call, and you're able to bring in pretty much everyone, but you have to do it by the end of the day, and you have a longer of wait time to be able to do it. But if you wait too long, you immediately fail it because you didn't answer in time. But any officers that are out on other calls aren't able to be diverted to the call. So that, once again, there's a lot of this game feels like forced replay. You have to know something's coming to be able to set up for it, which I find irritating. But, okay, so you bring in your officers and you set them up. And your loadout from the beginning of the day is also carried over. So, the officers that have batons and stun guns and tasers and that sort of thing, and tear gas are also brought in, and their loadout is allocated there as well. So you set up everything, and there's it's sort of like how XCOM 2 handled it, where there's a stealth mechanic at the beginning of the mission. But it's not quite as XCOM handles it, where in order for the stealth portion to end, you have to either do something noisy, like shoot a gun, or the criminal turn has to go off while they're alerted. So if they spot a cop, you have essentially a turn to be able to try to either incapacitate them, just stun them for a few turns, or arrest them outright. Which, I actually really like that portion. What pisses me off about it is that if you bring in somebody that is not loyal to you, which sometimes you have to because you're a little low on comps to begin with, or you may just had a bad timing because the calls are a static thing each day, but there seems to be a little bit of a window in between when the call happens, or the window that the call can happen, I should say, during the day. Well, because of that window, and you're punished so fucking severely for your failure to answer the calls, you may want to bring in the cops that, may not be all that great. Well, if a cop is not loyal to you, they'll run off on their own and do their own thing, including just running straight into the middle of gunfire and getting themselves killed, and then you get punished for it.
Okay.
And what's even worse is if you bring someone that you didn't realize wasn't loyal to you and would cause trouble, and it's a mission where you have to be stealthy. First turn, they'll run off and shoot at someone, alert the criminals, and then you lose on the criminals' next turn because they, shoot the hostage or blow up the building or whatever, they're planning. And the only way to get to that mission again is to start from the beginning of the day. You do have an option to restart the tactical missions as many times as you want, but you're not able to change your loadouts. You can change the trait loadouts, but you can't change who you bring in. So if you failed because you brought in someone that you didn't realize wasn't loyal to you, you are fucked. And this is on top of having to juggle all the other, people not wanting to work together. So you can also have the tactical missions where you can't bring in your best people because, oh no, that officer over there, that officer has boobs. I can't work with that. Ugh. This game, I really, really wanted to like it going into it. But there's just so many mechanical portions of the game that is just fucking frustrating, which I've gone on for about 20 minutes now talking about. That it's hard to recommend, at least in its current state. Which is a shame because the voice acting is really good for the most part. There's a couple of people that are a little bit robotic, just obviously reading from a script, but they're few and far between. They're very emotive. The cutscenes, there's essentially two different flavors of cutscenes. There's the static image of sort of visual novel comic book style where you hear the actions going on and you'll see essentially the pages turn. A different image showing the action going on. But then you have these rotoscoped, I'm assuming rotoscoped just because of how fluid they are, cutscenes where it's full animation. And the full animation ones are done really well, but they're usually reserved for the more action-oriented. The first time you really see one is when Jack Boyd is essentially having a panic attack because someone knocked on his door. And he's, fumbling with the gun, dropping the bullets, and he's sitting there, with the gun pressed up against the wall, trying to not snap and shoot the guy that just is sitting there talking about, trying to sell this guy an indoor toilet. And no, I'm not joking about that. And there's this real good level of stress that's conveyed by this cutscene. But it's a diamond under this giant pile of manure. Which I don't think it's really worth digging through, at least at the moment. It does look like they are patching at least some of it. But how much can they really fix on this is going to be the question. And this is on top of, there's 2 failure states, or at least immediate failure states that I've seen so far. If you've failed to get any beer tabs for 3 days in a row, the real sheriff there, Lily, will call the feds on you. Also, you're being extorted by the mafia from the first game because they know where you are for some reason. Probably explained at the end of the first game a lot better, I don't know. If you do not make the payments to them, which is $20,000 a week, then you are called the feds on. And you get the money by doing side jobs, which if you bring in the wrong people to do them, one, they may not do the job correctly and you don't get the money for it. Or you may lose respect for them, which starts the failure conga line all over again.
I see. So tell me how you really feel. Don't hold anything back.
Hey, at least I'm able to say why the game sucks, right?
Yeah.
Which and also during these side missions, you're also able to get items, which help you out in the tactical missions, which is another reason why you want to do them on top of just not failing the game. So you can hand off items to bystanders because you have to pay for information in this small town. To be able to be told essentially, oh, well, there's 6 people I saw go in, or, they're guarding this doorway, so you want to go around this way, that sort of thing. So there's other reasons besides just story reasons why you want to do this. But, it's annoying that, oh, well, this guy, he's intelligent enough, he's able to do this. Yeah. But, you lose the respect for him. Granted, you can get this back eventually by them saying, oh, well, I want to take a day off. But because they only usually work 2 days in a row and then, take 1 or 2 days off to be able to recuperate, how much fucking off time do you need?
All the time.
And there's also an investigation section, which also eats up officers. It feels like this game is built essentially for a police force that is about another, I would say 25% bigger. Which you can get there if you use the beer tabs. But because, once again, the failure conga, it's hard to build them up to be able to get enough of the police force to be able to actually manage that big force, or to obtain that big force, I should say. It feels like they built this game pretty much verbatim from the first one, system-wise, and added to it, but they didn't account for the scope change, which I really like the idea of a smaller town police management game like this, because it does lend itself to more personal encounters with the individual officers. But when the individual officers are a bunch of dickbags, it's a little hard to really want to deal with them, you know? I mean, there's not really one redeeming officer that's shown in a cutscene. At least in the first several hours. And then it goes off and starts trying to tie in other story threads, which it does rather abruptly, which I'm assuming is from the first one towards the end. But because I only got about halfway through and started to hit the slog, it's, yeah. Thoughts? Questions?
No questions. I mean, you definitely were extremely thorough. I mean, I don't think this sounds like a game that I'd be interested in, because it's so convoluted and messy and mechanically broken, unsound, messed up.
I would say mechanically
unbalanced.
There's mechanics here for a really good strategy management game, but they are fighting against one another, and it for really no reason. And a lot of the game requires foreknowledge that the game just doesn't give you. If there was the ability to be able to talk to the officers, to be able to understand, okay, their particular traits or quirks, then I would probably be a lot more forgiving about them being a bunch of infighting jerks. But there's not. And that's on top of this just story gameplay segregation where the officers are walking all over Jack, but in the cutscenes, he's the guy that held the gun to his head and talked about, I got this itchy trigger finger. He beats the fuck out of him with a mop in a cutscene. So why the hell is he taking this shit from the officers? I think story-wise, it would have made a lot more sense if it was Lily trying to manage the cops. Because, they are walking all over her in the cutscenes. She goes in to interview this suspect. And, she gets a couple questions off. And, he pretty much is saying, suck my dick. Pretty much. Well, I shouldn't say pretty much. He is literally saying that. And she goes out and, the other officers are there with, this briefcase full of interrogation tools. And she just admits defeat and just slinks off. For a game this story heavy, to have this big story gameplay segregation is pretty much unforgivable, to be honest. And this is on top of and she gets help from Jack Boyd, the protagonist from the first one, and he's a dick to her as well. Which, to be fair, he's not a nice guy, so, it kind of makes sense, but, she's just she's a literal doormat. I mean, maybe over the course of the game she gets redeemed, but, it's, I feel bad for her, but at the same time I kind of don't, because she doesn't stand up for herself at all. And when she tries, she backs down pretty much immediately. It just seems like she shouldn't be in the job to begin with. But then again, they have this convoluted thing to get Jack in the power to begin with. So I don't know. Maybe with patching it'll be a lot better mechanics wise, but there's still some things story wise that are just head scratchers, which maybe would make sense with a little bit more gameplay. But that requires to go through all the mechanics, mud and scum and yeah. But hey, it released a couple of days early, so there was that much.
Woo!
Yeah, I think they needed a couple more days to polish the story and not the story, but the mechanics, and make it a little less punishing.
Sweet. So, you said your other game was going to be short. Do you want to go ahead and do it first, and then I'll do Jurassic Park last?
Sure. We're going back to the normal format where I talk about both my games.
Well, I mean, since it's just 2 and 1, and you said your other one was real short.
Yeah, so I wanted to have something to talk about outside of just bitching about This Is the Police 2. So I went to a game that I picked up during the Steam summer sale, Superflight. This is essentially a flying squirrel in Minecraft worlds. Or, the glider suits. I'm not sure what the proper term for them is, but, you're flying around these procedurally generated chunks of land. And it's one of those games that is it seems to be a chill-out game, but then it's also not, because you have this sense of adrenaline as you're trying to build up your high score. As you fly closer to the land and do tricks like going through these generated tunnels, you build up points. And there's this sense of adrenaline, but also kind of zen-like thing going on where you're just kind of in the zone and flying around. And it's, for a very, very blocky landscape, it does some very pretty stuff on the graphical side of things. Unfortunately, the chunks are fairly small, and you'll spend a minute at most on most of the maps before you go through a portal, or you just go too far away and you essentially black out and the next map is generated and you go through that one again. It's pretty much one of those games that could be explained in 1 or 2 sentences, but there's a few mechanic quirks that are a little odd. For one, you're unable to perform a loop at all. You're essentially locked to the 180 degrees, 90 degrees positive and 90 degrees negative. So you're not able to do a really quick turnaround. And because you're a glider, you're constantly losing altitude, but also you're losing speed if you're trying to do level flight. And there's not, at least from what I was able to tell in the hour and a half of gameplay, there's not a really good indicator of your speed before you start to stall. There is that sense of speed whenever you dive down and build it up, but there's a difference between slightly below level flight where you're able to sustain, and a perfectly level flight where you're coming up to your stall and it's not really warning you, which is a little off-putting, at least for the first, I would say, 15-20 minutes before you really get a feeling for it. And also the camera is a little on the loose side. It's a third-person camera, and most third-person cameras, whenever you turn, it'll kind of turn with you so that your character is essentially moving to one side of the screen a little bit, and it's able to give you a little bit more of a feeling of where you're turning. It doesn't quite do that, so there's a few times that I was turning and I was essentially blind for outside of the a few feet in front of me, which was a little irritating, but something else that you start to get used to, and you're able to judge a little bit better. Procedural generation sometimes bit me in the ass, where there's different flavors of chunks of land, and some of them generate a lot more tunnels that are able to build up points rather quickly. But there's sometimes that it'll start to generate a tunnel, and instead of a tunnel, it's more of an indent that looks like a tunnel. So I go in and kind of crater, which was a little irritating, particularly when I had a couple good runs going. This is a score attack game, but it's one of those games that don't count on getting a high score because, let's put it this way. I'm pretty sure the top score was somewhere in the neighborhood of the national debt in numeric form. It was so large that it actually broke the high score table on the main screen. So,
okay.
Someone definitely is either godlike or hacked. I'm guessing hacked. But it was several trillion points. And here I am just getting a few thousand. But there's this, kind of a mixture of relaxation and excitement that it's really, really hard to describe without, really having another example of it, which I really can't think of, at least offhand, where you're able to essentially just, if you don't really care about your points and you just want to, have some sort of screensaver or interactive screensaver, just fly around and do your thing and not really care about getting the combos. But then there's, that possibility to really dive in and dart between canyons and go through that tunnel and, oh crap, it wasn't a tunnel in a crater. But yeah, it's a cheap game, so, there's not a lot of meat on the bones, but it's one of those that, you can pick up and play for 5-10 minutes and put down. It almost feels mobile-like in that. Outside of the, I imagine this would be absolutely terrible to try to control mobile unless they do some sort of gyroscopic controls. It's not.
Yeah, but gyroscopic controls.
Yeah, gyroscopic controls are kind of ass.
Yeah, they never really work right. They don't seem to have gotten any better over the years.
Yeah, and on-screen thumbstick wouldn't work for this because it'd be obscuring too much of the screen.
Yeah.
Or unless you have a transparent thumb, which if you do, medical science probably wants to talk to you about that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's something I never understood about the on-screen controls is you're blocking a lot of the screen, and that's not a big screen to begin with.
Yeah.
I will say that I was able to do a lot better once I switched over to the gamepad. It is playable with keyboard and mouse, or a keyboard, but it's one of those that definitely lends itself to analog controls of the gamepad variety. But yeah, that's pretty much Superflight. There's not a lot to talk about on it. It's just I've won something, at least vaguely positive.
Yeah.
It's a good...
I mean, it sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a good game to finish off, your Steam wallet on a sale or something,
Yeah.
Because it dips down to, I believe, sub-$1.
Yeah, it was only, what, $2.99?
Yeah, it's only, it's in the impulse buy range to begin with. So, Steam Summer Sale, it goes down really, really low.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty much all the GIFs on the store page. It shows you exactly what to expect from this. I just wished it had bigger land chunks because it's essentially just floating islands. It feels a lot like the outer lands from Minecraft where the procedural generation starts to break down. And you just have floating chunks.
Yeah.
But there's just something about the aesthetic that works really well. Most of the time. You do get some maps that are just not quite that good. But then you get some that are just absolutely beautiful. And you don't have an option to save at least your current map. Something I kind of wish for is that if at the end of your run, since it could span multiple maps, each time you get lower on the map, you essentially start high above it and you kind of glide down. There's portals, but you could also black out and it generates a new map. And if you hit a portal, it gives you points for that. But I wish that it had it where at the end of your run, you're able to save individual maps instead of just your current map. So, you hit one that you really like, you have to either, force die or, just accidentally die. But, it's a weird mixture of chillax and exhilaration. And I like, this game doesn't have helicopters, guns, leveling system, a soundtrack, loot boxes, a cinematic story, online multiplayer, Twitch Live integration, character sense, Oryx. Sound card. We don't think you need one. You could really just place a fan in front of you to simulate the wind sounds, which it doesn't have music at all. It just has this wind effect, which is probably what's supposed to indicate your airspeed. But I wasn't able to really tell the difference between level-ish flight and oh crap, I'm about to stall wind speed. Probably with a little bit more nuance, so I'd be able to do that. But usually you're pretty much on a downward spiral anyway. Much like me talking about this is the police.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, let me talk about something that doesn't spiral down, unless you use the wrong kind of fences and your dinosaurs get out and eat everyone.
No, the only spiral here is a double helix.
Dinosaur DNA. Anyways, I played Jurassic World Evolution, the latest game in the Jurassic Park series, and the second real park builder game. There have been a couple of mobile games that are park builders, but they're
but we're talking
garbage.
Real games.
Yeah, real games. And I've mentioned its predecessor. This isn't really a direct sequel to Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, but it does feel in a lot of ways like a spiritual successor. It's basically the same game. You build a park, you send dig teams out to get fossils, you research the fossils, you create dinosaurs. This one incorporates the stuff from the newer movies, which is the genetic modification of your dinosaurs.
Because that was a great idea.
And you can do a lot of things with them once you actually get into the research tree quite a bit. You start out with some really basic stuff that's like, you can modify your dinosaurs to resist disease, or you can modify them to be more or less aggressive based on what type of DNA you put in them. But later on, once you've got the full range of options, you can color your dinosaurs purple and give them giant claws and make them super aggressive and make them fight each other. You can get pretty crazy with it. Although the more intense modifications you make, the more expensive your dinosaurs become. So eventually money becomes no object in the game, but until that point happens, you don't want to encourage your dinosaurs to kill each other all the time. But that is one of the ways to increase your park rating, is to have one or two dinosaurs that are kings of combat, and just have them continually kill dinosaurs to build up a...
Wait, so Dinosaur Fight Club?
Yeah, you have them build up an infamy reputation, which gives your park a boost. And then you can trank them both and put them in a pen together and have them fight each other.
So so they're famous, they become infamous.
Infamous, yes. Yes. That's one of the biggest focuses on the game, is the genetic manipulation of the dinosaurs. And the big hybrid dinosaurs that are in the two most recent movies, the Indominus Rex and the Indoraptor, are available, but they're some of the last things you can research. And they're really... I'm really scared to do that, because even some of the two dinosaurs that they're based off of, the T-Rex and the Velociraptor, are both extremely aggressive dinosaurs that attack pretty much anything on sight. The last time I played, I finally got enough DNA together to create a T-Rex, and so I was like, this could be a really bad idea, because I don't have the strongest fences researched, but I thought, screw it. I'm gonna make a T-Rex.
Expense here. Got it.
I was like, screw it, I'm gonna make a T-Rex. So I made a T-Rex, and he came out, and I put him in my biggest pen, hoping that he would wander off by himself.
Wait, no, be she?
Right. That's never mentioned in the game, but you're right. All of the dinosaurs are supposed to be female in the original Jurassic Park.
Yeah, see, they would have fixed every single problem they had with the original Jurassic Park if they all been male, because they wouldn't have been able to get busy, right? They based it off. They filled in on the junk DNA with frogs, so never mind.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
That's all of the filled-in DNA initially, as a callback. All the original DNA is frog DNA, and then you can change it to other stuff. But anyways, I put him in my biggest pen with the fewest amount of dinosaurs in it, to just give it a trial run and see how it went, and he immediately goes over and starts killing everything in the pen. He kills two other carnivores, and then he attacks, what's their name? Ceratosaurs, which kind of look like smaller T-Rexes. And he kills them immediately, and then he kills a Triceratops, and then an Ankylosaur. He kills everything in the pen except for the pair of Velociraptors. And they're just yeah, we're cool. There's this. I'm going to focus on this for a little bit, because this is...
Is that a callback to the original Jurassic Park? They don't want to mess with the Velociraptors?
maybe, but the Velociraptors, well, in the Jurassic World, the one that came out in like 2015, the Velociraptors helped the T-Rex fight the big bad dinosaur. And then in the most recent one, they also they have that like mutual respect for each other and don't fuck with each other. But yeah, I'm focusing on the dinosaurs because that's where this game really shines. Like, the dinosaurs are beautiful. They got their animations looking like they do in the movies with the graphics cranked all the way up. It's not as good as the movie, but as far as like video game dinosaurs go, these are the best I've ever seen by a long shot. They got the sound design of the dinosaurs down pat from the movies. I assume they just pulled all the sound assets from Universal from all the movies.
No, they brought in an actual dinosaur. They spared no expense.
That's amazing. Yeah, spared no expense.
And I may be listening to the Jurassic Park theme in the background right now, by the way. Yeah.
The dinosaurs all will sort of group up and behave communally, and like you can just sit there and you can watch them, and they'll interact with each other. Whenever predators face off with one another, there's sort of like this moment where they like stare each other down before a fight breaks out, and sometimes they just decide like it's not worth it, so they'll like sort of like circle around each other and then be like, nah, we're cool, and then like walk away. The takedowns whenever one dinosaur kills another are amazing, and also when dinosaurs eat people in the park. That's also amazing.
Also, they have Lawyer Day.
Yeah, to watch a giant carnivore break out of the pen and swallow a park goer whole is just great, aside from the fact that it tanks your park rating and you lose a shit ton of money to lawsuits. But it's fun to watch. Or Velociraptors will like jump on people and like rip them apart. It doesn't get super gory, but there is blood. And I mean, there is violence, particularly between the dinosaurs when they fight each other. That's when the animations get the most detailed in terms of like damage done. You have to manage them properly, keep them happy so they don't break your fences down. But certain dinosaurs, like the Velociraptor or the T-Rex, are much more aggressive. So if you don't keep them like perfectly happy, they'll break out of the pens and start killing people. I mean, the dinosaurs are amazing. If you're as big a fan of Jurassic Park as my mom is, you should buy this game just for the dinosaurs alone. Like, that's all she does. Like, the game itself is not too difficult, but my mom historically is really bad at video games. So, like, I helped her get started, and she's just like, she texts me sometimes. She's like, I'm playing, and I'm just watching the dinosaurs. I'm like, I know, Mom. Here, let me send you this video of the T-Rex, because I'm way, way ahead of her. And then the rest of the game is average pretty much all the way through. Oh, well, the soundtrack is amazing. They have paired some original score that matches the sort of tone of the original soundtrack, but they've also thrown in the original soundtrack as well as the newer scores and soundtracks as well. So the audio is amazing. The music for each of the different islands you go to, like, they each have their own theme, which is great. One of them, so there's 6 islands in the game that you unlock as you progress, and I've got 4 of the 6 islands, and one of them, which is Isla Nublar, which was the original island, has the original soundtrack that plays over it, so that one's my favorite. Also, that's the island that's the sandbox island, where you don't have to worry about money or anything. You can just build and place dinosaurs to your heart's content.
What, you're not going to say it?
Spared no expense.
Yeah, you could spare no expense.
You can spare no expense on Isla Nublar.
Except for locks on the doors, right?
Yeah. The little tiki bathrooms. Anyways, what was I saying? I got sidetracked on the islands. Oh, I was talking about the score. The voice acting is really well done as well. They got Ian Malcolm himself, which is, just Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum. But
he
it's
do the
wonderful.
laugh?
He does. He's got a ton of dialogue in this game. He's got a role similar to whoever reads the Civilopedia in whatever Civ game you're playing. That's essentially his role, and also he has like quippy things that are like Ian Malcolm-isms, where he talks about chaos and chaos theory and he gets a little flirty at times with people. You know, the sort of rock star scientist vibe. He pulls that off.
Yeah, then your park raining tanks and you lose a bunch of money due to sexual harassment lawsuits.
They got some of the actors from the newer movies to do voices, but they couldn't get Chris Pratt. I assume they had to choose between paying for Chris Pratt or Jeff Goldblum, and they went Jeff Goldblum, which is the right choice. Yeah. But it is a little weird to see Chris Pratt pop up, and it's like, you don't sound anything like Chris Pratt. Not even close. Which honestly is kind of part of the charm of this game. I mean, this game feels like a B movie, like a AA titled video game. It's got a lot of that charm oozing off of it. Although my favorite part of the whole sound design is the voice actor who did Arhu from Divinity is your park, like your assistant manager for the park. So he's constantly talking to you about dinosaurs. And every time I'm just like, look at his picture and I'm like, you should be a cat right now. You should be a cat right now. When I heard him the first time, I was like, that's the guy who did Arhu. I'm almost positive. And I looked it up on IMDb, and it is. And I had like a little giddy schoolgirl scream. But the rest of the game just oozes, you know, B-movie, AA title, like, sort of little bit of, like, everything works and is fine, but it's not great or well thought out. Like, the park itself, the system that they use for managing, like, what your star rating is for each of your parks on the various islands, because there's multiple ones that you unlock, which I'll get to in a minute when I talk about the one, like, big negative I have about the game. But the ratings sort of, kind of don't make sense, but they just kind of, like, work eventually. And suddenly it's like, you'll be at, like, a 3.5 stars, and you won't really change much, and then you'll be at 5 stars, and you're like, okay, I don't know what I did, but whatever it is, it's working. And you only have to...
it was one of the dinosaurs ate another one. It was awesome.
You only have to achieve a 5-star rating once to unlock everything for that particular island, like all the bonuses and everything that come from the various islands. So you just do it once, and then you're done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. But, yeah, that whole system is kind of not incomprehensible, but doesn't quite make sense. There's lots of things that the game doesn't tell you that you discover later on, like what I did about fighting dinosaurs. Nowhere in the tutorial or in the, like, encyclopedia in game or from any of the missions that you can do does it tell you that you can do this. But you can do that. You can create, like, a dinosaur fighting arena and raise the rating on your park to 5 stars. And then once you do that and unlock the bonus, you can stop, or you could keep doing it because it's fun. It's got this little, like, super campy, like, mechanic where you can fly around the helicopter or drive the Jeep around for your park rangers. And you can, like, take pictures and stuff, but it controls, like, really badly, and you can run pedestrians over, you know, forever, and nothing seems to happen. They just, like, fall over, and they, like, raise a fist at you angrily, but they don't care that you're running them over or shooting them with the dart rifle. I just realized I've never tried to tranquilize a park guest. I should do that. I should see if you can tranquilize a park guest. But I've shot them. Yeah, but I've shot them with, like, the dart rifle that has, like, medicine in it whenever your dinosaurs get sick. But, you know,
somebody coughs and you just hear this Jeep in the distance. People screaming.
But yeah, the whole thing is really campy in the way that works, but it's still a lot of fun, and you can unlock the skin for the classic Jeep from the original Jurassic Park. Thankfully there's, at least at this point, no microtransactions. There's, like, a Game of the Year edition or a special edition or whatever that has, like, some extra dinosaurs, but there's 52 or 53 dinosaurs that you can get, and I only have something like 22 or 23. And I've played it for about 10 hours, so there's a good variety that you can get to without even having to worry about that. But, like, the whole thing just oozes, like, B-movie, AA, like, the right level of silliness, but also, like, it stands out in the area where it has to be a good Jurassic Park game, which is with the dinosaurs and the whole park aspect. But the only thing that, like, really bugs the crap out of me is there's this mission system where that you have three park advisors.
I've seen some, people complain about this.
3 park advisors where that you have to do missions for them, which in and of itself is fine. This serves as like an additional like challenge and unlock system where you can get like the last, few tech things in the game, as well as some bonuses if you complete these missions early on that will help you progress faster. And that in and of itself is fine, but for some reason, these 3 advisors hate each other. And if you do too many missions for one of them without balancing it out with the other 2, they will actively sabotage your park and like shut down your power or release infections into your dinosaur pens or like open gates so that park
do they ask you for the magic word?
No, but they should. That would provide a little bit of like redemption to this. But it's so stupid. I'm like, why are you sabotaging the park because you're mad because I didn't do your mission when you wanted me to? It annoys me, and it has actually like really caused some serious problems at points because a lot of the missions will like require you to like do something. But someone gets mad and they shut the power off, and it's like, well, now I can't order the helicopter over to take care of that thing I was supposed to do for the mission. That timer's going to run out, and it's going to expire, and I'm going to have to restart the mission and lose 10, 15 minutes, millions of dollars potentially, if dinosaurs also get out and eat people. Stupid. It bugs the shit out of me. Another thing that's just a little bit annoying, but not like super bad, is the formula for how they calculate how much money you're making. Instead of which, Jurassic Park Operation Genesis did this based on individual park visitors, and they would go around and they would spend money on stuff, and so that's how you would make money.
Roller Coaster Tycoon style.
Right, but this one is a formula based on all of the factors for your park. So in general, like the higher the star rating of your park, the more visitors come in. But then you also, it calculates it based on like how many amenities you can provide, and it, you can like break those out and see exactly how much each one is providing. But
yeah,
it's just like a per minute thing as opposed to on an individual park goer basis.
Yeah, I've actually
watched, which is a little annoying.
Sorry, no. I was about to say I actually watched a little bit of a Twitch stream on this, actually a few times, because it looks interesting, but it looks like a lot of the systems in the game are cosmetic only, where people don't actually use the facilities.
Yeah, because people will wander towards any building, and so like they'll walk up to your power plant and like walk inside, and it's like, what are you doing inside the power plant? You shouldn't be allowed to walk in there. But it's just, yeah, because they're not actually doing anything except wandering around to be eaten at some point. They're not actually interacting with anything.
Maybe that's why the power keeps going out.
Maybe.
Somebody just wanders into a generator.
And they get fried and the power shuts down. So but yeah, that whole mission system is how you unlock certain things, and how you one of the ways that you can unlock the various islands. Because a lot of times completing those missions will give you the reputation boost that you need to bump yourself up to like 4 or 5 stars to unlock the next island. So like I said, there's 6 islands. The first island is like the tutorial one, where that nothing bad ever happens unless your dinosaurs get out. Like, there's no storms, the weather's perfect, it never becomes night there. It's perpetual wonderful daylight. And then the next one, you have to deal with hurricanes. And then the next one, you start with a park, like a pre-built park that's losing money, and you have to fix it.
Quick, start Dinosaur Fight Club.
That's what I did. I sold off a bunch of shit that I didn't need, and then started a Dinosaur Fight Club. And then the next island is really tiny. So you have to like make a thriving park with a really small area. And then the 5th island, I can't remember why I don't have the 5th island unlocked yet. And then the 6th island, Isla Nublar, is unlocked by completing a certain set of challenges, which you can do before you get to, the 5th island. But you can only play in the sandbox with everything that you've unlocked previously, so it doesn't give you everything. So you still have to go back to your other islands and do research and dig for dinosaur bones and do all that jazz. Overall, it's a really, really good game. But if you're not a super big Jurassic Park fan, I think it's asking too much. It would be really well priced at $35 to $40, and then what they've done is went, but this is Jurassic Park, so we're gonna put a little extra on there and bumped it up to a full price release. I mean, the game feels and plays exactly like a good $35 to $40 AA title would. But
so you're saying sale, right?
Yeah, if you really like Jurassic Park, like if you're really, really into it, I think it's worth it at its current price. I wouldn't go for the deluxe edition. Like, you don't need those 5 extra dinosaurs. I guess if you really want them, sure, it's your money. I'm not gonna tell you how to spend it.
Now, what if they put little hats in the dinosaurs?
Oh shit, I'm in. $1,000. Take all my money, all of it. But anyways,
the T-Rex has a crown because it is the king of the lizards, right?
It is. But yeah. Anyways, if you're not like just the biggest Jurassic Park fan ever, it's worth it at $30 to $40. But obviously, if you're patient, it'll go on sale eventually at some point for $10 or $15, and at that point, it would be a steal. So, I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with this game, and I'm going to continue thoroughly enjoying my time with it, because I'm like, my mom's love for Jurassic Park is like a 10, and mine's like a 9. So, I'm gonna get all the dinosaurs, and make myself a really shiny, lovely park with Dinosaur Fight Club in it.
Yeah, but we don't talk about Dinosaur Fight Club.
Indeed.
Well, I asked you a question when I first saw you playing it, and you had a bit of an answer for it, but you wanted to hold off on it. And I'm going to ask it again. What style of game is this? Is this more of a management game, or is this more of a sandbox game where it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you go with the formula, at least to some degree?
It's much more of a sandbox game. If you're patient enough and don't want to rush anything, money pretty quickly becomes no object for you. The only time I've had an issue with money so far has been when I went to the island where the park was losing money. And it took me a little bit to strategize how to fix that. But then I just got up and went to the bathroom and had some food and did some other stuff and came back and I had shitloads of money. Well, not shitloads, but enough money that I could start making changes to the park. So it's much more sandbox. And then also there's some strategy elements involved just because of that mission system and making sure that you hit whatever target you need to make sure you unlock everything.
But yet don't piss off your employees. But then again, that is kind of a simulation aspect because historically Jurassic Park hasn't had the best of hiring practices.
That's true. I didn't think of it that way. I guess in universe it makes sense because they've been betrayed more than once by employees.
Only if they had a couple more questions on the interview. So, how do you like dinosaurs? Oh, I really like them. Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
Or at least give a decent salary.
Yeah, it's much more sandbox than management or business simulator.
Which isn't a bad thing. It's just, you have to go in with the proper expectation. Right.
It's a little bit more, managey at the beginning before you get your, your first couple of parks going. But yeah, once you sort of get a hang on things, it's, you just might have to wait a few minutes for your money to come in. So yeah. Speaking of money coming in. Yeah? Yeah? Want to go talk about Fallout New Vegas?
Some of that pre-war money. Got it.
Oh yeah. So, Gameclub in case you're new to our little show here, you've never heard us do a Game Club episode before. Rage and I have very different tastes in games generally, and even the games that we sometimes play together, we can have very different views on it. And Game Club is a way for us to play the same game over the same period of time and talk about it together and how we experienced it and what we feel about it and think about it. And for this month, the month of July, we chose to do Fallout New Vegas, specifically the main story plot. And I think this discussion is going to also include some mechanics and things like that. Whereas, like we mentioned earlier, depending on how that is edited, but we also have talked about it on a previous episode. When we do the part 2 of New Vegas for August, we're going to be focusing exclusively on the DLC.
Yeah, which will likely be a lot more story discussion because at least what I played of the DLCs previously, they didn't really introduce a lot more mechanics. It was pretty much just pure story, which is fine by me.
Yeah. So yeah, New Vegas has got a reputation for being the most well-written of the modern Fallout games. So Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4. And I guess also you could include Fallout Shelter in that, although it is not even the same ballpark.
Yeah, which, well, also, I imagine it's, Fallout 76 isn't going to really give it a run for its money because it's more of a online survival game from the looks of things.
Yeah. But I think I would agree with that.
Fallout, yeah, definitely.
Fallout 3 is not a bad game, but it is much cheesier and less well written, acted, and laid out than New Vegas. And Fallout 4, you haven't played Fallout 4. I've played Fallout 4 a lot. Fallout 4 has got a lot of really well-written quest dialogues, a lot of really well put together, like, discoverable story and discoverable quests and things. But where Fallout 4 is really let down is the dialogue system, the conversation system, because instead of actually knowing what you're going to say, it's just like 1 or 2 words that is supposed to convey what you're trying to say.
And it doesn't really matter in the long run.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter in the long run.
Yeah, the meme is yes means yes, no means yes, sarcastic means yes, and then the joke answer is usually a joke, then yes.
Yeah. So that really lets it down. But in Fallout 4, whenever other, characters are doing their thing or you're going through the story itself, it's really well written and there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. But I still think New Vegas is better. Like, New Vegas on our scale here is probably like an A for when it comes to the writing. Fallout 4 is like a solid B, maybe a B plus in certain areas, but, average out to a B. I'd say Fallout 3 is like a B minus, C plus to B minus.
Yeah, it really depends on the quest for Fallout 3 because some of them were all right, some of them were at least from memory serves, it's been a while.
Yeah. So, also doing comparisons between the games, mechanically, Fallout New Vegas is better than Fallout 3, but not as good as Fallout 4. Fallout 3 had no like aiming, like whenever you aimed, it just kind of zoomed the camera in a little bit, so there was no like aim down sights.
Yeah, no iron sights.
Only with sniper scopes did you get any sort of actual aiming. Yeah, but even then, it was pretty piss poor.
Yeah, which for New Vegas, sometimes that is detrimental because some of the guns, don't have great sights on them.
Yeah. In Fallout 3, I used VATS like all the time. In Fallout New Vegas, I use it pretty frequently, but not always.
Honestly, and then me, VATS was usually in New Vegas this time around was trying to figure out, okay, what's shooting at me?
Yeah,
because sometimes, and this is a more graphic, possibly criticism, but also this is an older game. Sometimes the enemies would mix in because of just the art direction. Most of the world is rather sandy because it is the Mojave.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of browns and lighter shades of browns, and don't forget the occasional tan.
Yeah.
So characters can become a little bit muddled in the environment. So I would use VATS to target on people.
Yeah. I'll in Fallout 4, I almost never use VATS. Although VATS is pretty vastly changed in Fallout 4, because in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, VATS is a combat pause, and where in Fallout 4 it just slows down time quite a bit, but it doesn't stop. So it makes you rethink the way that you play the game. But I like that. It makes you strategize a little bit more, because VATS has always felt overpowered to me.
Well, there was a pretty big change in VATS between Fallout 3 and New Vegas to begin with.
What was the big change?
Fallout 3, you were pretty much invulnerable while VATS was going off, so you could use it as a get out of jail free card if there was some sort of big explosion coming. And New Vegas, you don't get that. Granted, New Vegas doesn't have it where you have easier time getting damage resistance due to the damage threshold mechanic, which wasn't in 3, but you don't get the free ride in VATS for being pretty much godlike.
Okay.
So there was a change between the two.
I didn't know that about VATS from Fallout 3.
Yeah, Fallout 3, VATS was hugely overpowered. Granted, it's not exactly a wimp in New Vegas, but it's more balanced.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's also counterbalanced by the fact that if you're walking around in full power armor, you shrug off a lot of damage, but that also makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. I also really like the change to power armor in Fallout 4. I initially didn't, but the more I played the game, the more I liked it. Because power armor in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas is
armor.
Just an armor that you wear all the time. Whereas in Fallout 4, it's like getting into a vehicle, like getting into a mech suit, basically. And that really changes the way that you're able to use power armor, and really changes the way that it affects the game. Because you can't just like depend on having all of this massive, damage tanking and also boost to your strength and endurance and stuff like that that power armor gives you. Again, it's another way that I could see people not liking it, but I did like it just because it had to force you to learn new ways to play the game. Because my basic strategy has always been like, get power armor, and then everything else becomes a lot easier in Fallout.
Yeah. For New Vegas, I was running one of the mods that adds more perks, and one of them was the ability to, if you had enough stats in intelligence and science, you're able to essentially teach yourself how to use power armor instead of having to go through a rather annoying set of quests.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I do think probably the Brotherhood of Steel is my least favorite part of New Vegas.
Yeah, they're annoying. They're a lot more annoying in New Vegas than they are in Fallout 3 or Fallout 4. Just because of how tedious the quest line is, and what little reward you get from it. I mean, it's basically there to get power armor, I feel like. That's really the only point of it. Like,
yeah,
you want power
also,
armor without using mods, here's how you do it.
Yeah, and they also kind of reward you with a few sets of power armor if you do the companion quest line. Well, yeah. By reward, I should say you murder a few of them, but yeah.
Yeah. Which I haven't, that's the companion that I've been using. I've forgotten her name.
Veronica.
Yeah. That's who I've been having.
Yeah, that was the stock companion I used as well. Granted, they don't really have a lot of companions in this game, but that's also kind of talking about what New Vegas could have been, because New Vegas had a 1.5-year development cycle, which is incredibly short for an RPG.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it is using Bethesda's engine and a lot of assets from Fallout 3, and actually some from Oblivion. But I should say Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Yeah, give the full title.
Right.
But yeah, that's still a lot of writing, a lot of voice acting that just had to be done. In the original scope of the game, it had a lot more of a balanced, well, not really view of, but a lot more balanced content between the three factions, or the three main factions, I should say.
Yeah, whereas the initial or really the released version of the game. I don't think they ever added anything for the Legion, did they?
No. But the Legion was supposed to have 3 more settlements east of the Colorado River. That was supposed to be non-militaristic, so the civilian life of the Legion, to give you an idea of what's going on behind the scenes. It wouldn't have made the Legion look better, in my opinion, but it would have made things a lot more interesting for him, instead of them being a very thinly veiled, big bad, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, the way that the game ends is you've got, just like very briefly, we'll backtrack, but, there's basically 3 major factions you can choose to side with, or you can choose to
be the wild card.
And so you can side with the Legion, you can side with the NCR, which is New California Republic, you can side with Mr. House,
which is New Vegas.
Yep, which is New Vegas, or you can go it your own. You can go your own way. But what type of character build did you go with?
Well, mine, I went really heavily modded, even though a lot of my mods were more quality of life, more perks, the ability to choose perks more often. One of my favorite mods I wasn't able to run this time because they pulled it down, I guess, during the whole paid mod controversy, was a charisma-based system for how many companions you can have. Because in New Vegas, like in Fallout 3, you could have essentially 1 non-human companion and 1 human companion. Well, what I did was I unlocked the ability to have all the companions I wanted, but I still limited myself. I think I had 2 mod companions and a stock companion, as well as Edie, which is another stock companion. But but my character was more of a non-combatic, not quite smooth talker, but a lot in the intelligence tree, and a lot of science, and a little bit of stealth, but not quite. To be able to handle some of the non-combat roles, while my party helped me out with, the actual fighting part of survival. Granted, I wasn't exactly a slouch because I do have my full power armor, but still.
Yeah, that's honestly kind of what I did. I went maxed out my intelligence.
Well, I didn't max out, but I had enough charisma to be able to handle some speech checks as well.
Yeah, I maxed out my intelligence, and my charisma is at 8 or 9. And then I bumped up my strength a couple of points just to increase carrying capacity in the early game. I also heavily modded and went for extra perks, and then mods that gave you more perk points to spend, so I could actually use a lot more of the perks. Because the perks are really fun and do a lot of stuff to change the game. And I think originally New Vegas only rewarded you every other level.
Every other level,
perk.
Which
but I
really, really limited things.
Yeah, but I got a mod that gave me 2 perks every single level.
Well, see, I just did 1 a level because more than that seemed like it would just be too much,
Yeah. It was certainly fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had some other things like, for one, if you, with the Game of the Year edition, that had all the DLC. One of the DLCs also gave you all the pre-order stuff. Which, I don't have a problem with, but the way they handled it was they essentially just offloaded all the stuff on you, so you were massively overpowered at the very beginning of the game. I did it where both the Gunrunner DLC, which essentially was just a merchant with expanded inventory of goodies, that was put into the drop table, as well as all the stuff from the pre-order stuff. So I was able to see a lot more variety of combatant, which was actually a lot more interesting. There was one encounter I had very early on with a legion, a group of legionnaires trying to take over a caravan. And one of the caravan people had this, not quite mini nuke, but it was some sort of massive pulse grenade. And he threw it at the Legion guard that was closing in on him. But he threw it pretty much at the guy's feet when the guy was, within a few feet. So there's this massive congregation. The screen kind of pauses for a moment, and there's this flash of green, and then just body parts start raining from the sky.
Nice.
It didn't kill all the Legion, but it killed off the caravan, so I got free loot. Because that is one thing that... it's just the age of the game where, there's not a lot of... there's the fights that, feels like raiding parties and that sort of thing, but they don't actually raid the bodies. So it's free loot. And they just don't care if you, come in and take, all the guns.
Right. Off of the dead bodies. As long as the bodies are dead.
Yeah. But that, once again, that's just, the age of things. There's... I brought up the Nexus mod manager. I also did it where there was the expanded weapon mods, so that I was able to essentially snap on and off weapon mods at will from the Gunrunner stuff. Most of the New Vegas Uncut, which was just adding different encounters and different things that was supposed to be in the game, but was cut due to time. A couple modded player houses to just have a place to stay. Like I said, a couple of companions, which honestly, the companions in the game, they have their storyline, but outside of that, there's not a lot of interaction with them. The one that I prefer to use, Willow, will actually sit and chatter away about different things going on. Not endlessly, thankfully, but she adds a lot more flavor to the game that I think could have been in the game, but just never really was established by the baseline characters. But like I said, most of my stuff was pretty low key. It was just there was a lot of little things, and some of the mods were the New Vegas Uncut, which was a lot of little things, but it was broken up into about half a dozen, or actually nearly a dozen now that I think about it, packs to be able to snap on and off at will.
Yeah.
So that really brought my mod count up, which also made it so that the game was a little bit more unstable outside of putting on a bunch of player-made patching and the 3264-bit conversion.
Yeah. I used a lot of the same mods that you did, because we went through and we talked about all of our mods at one point.
Yeah, and
plenty of them like we were already using, or very similar mods.
Yeah, but but the one I talked about, having the ammo components, you were like, they have that?
Yeah.
That was just comical.
Yeah, I was constantly out of ammo in the early game.
I didn't have that problem. But then again, I also, I was able to buy I tagged energy weapon, so I had the laser pistol, which was pretty much a 2-shot kill. So that solved a lot of my ammo problems.
So I was using a mod called the Signature, well, 2 mods, Signature Weapons and Signature Armor mod, which allowed you to pick one weapon and one set of armor to be your signature, and it leveled up and got bonus stats. And I was going for like a gunslinger thing up until I got power armor. So I was using a 10mm pistol and like a cowboy duster outfit the whole game until I got power armor. So in the early game, there's not a lot of 10mm ammo. So I was out of ammo a lot and couldn't use my signature weapon until midway through the game.
If memory serves. Towards the midpoint of the game, I had a service rifle, a caravan shotgun, which I swapped out for a riot shotgun, which was pretty much the same gun, only with a bigger magazine. And then the Elude's Sea Finder, whenever you have to kill every motherfucker in the room.
Nice.
And also,
Very
one of the
nice.
mods that I had got attacked by somebody that had a few missile launchers towards the end of the game. So, I had missiles for the encounter, and also during the campaign, I knew where to find Thump Thump. Which Thump Thump is the named grenade launcher, which is exceptionally devastating. As long as you don't hit somebody that's right in front of you.
Right. Well, then it's still exceptionally devastating. Just
and one mod I
just
ran, just because of how the game portrays power armor, was it changes power armor to have a carry bonus, so that power armor, when worn, is essentially weightless.
Yeah.
So it acts sort of like how it does in Fallout 4, where you're riding along in the power armor, you're not carrying the power armor.
I did not use that mod, but the signature armor mod, that's one of the things that you can, as it levels up, you can get is a carry bonus to your armor. So I had that too.
Oh, and also flashlights.
I wound up not using the flashlight mod. I decided not to, though.
Well, the thing is that there was several helmets that had some sort of headlamp built into it. And also the power armor, the helmet has both a headlamp and night vision.
Nice.
Granted, for some reason, they tied the night vision trigger to the Pip-Boy flashlight. So if you have night vision on, people are able to see you a lot easier, which is irritating. But yeah, the default flashlight, it's essentially you're just lighting up the screen on your Pip-Boy, so it's like holding up your cell phone and trying to light the way. Yeah.
Done that plenty of times before.
Yeah, until you realized, wait a minute, my cell phone has a flashlight on it.
My old phone actually did not have a flashlight. I'd have to download the app that would turn on the camera, the flash, or the bulb for the camera flash.
Mm-hmm.
But my phone now has, you can just turn on the flashlight. Anyways, though, that's doesn't really have to do with Fallout.
At least with that attitude.
So I think that covers the mods, because I didn't really have anything else distinguishable to talk about that you haven't already mentioned. I don't know if I have any other comparisons I want to make to the other games. Do you have any more that you want to make?
I would say that as a whole, I think the voice acting is better in New Vegas. But then again, Bethesda has this thing, at least in the Fallout 3 Oblivion era, where they would have one notable actor and then a few people from the office, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, the voice acting in New Vegas is better than 3, but not as good as it is in 4. But that's one of those things
eras.
that just like, yeah.
So that's
also
not
Bethesda
really
was
fair.
was a much larger company later on, so they had more money to spend on voice actors.
What you mean they didn't spend all the Oblivion voice acting budget on Patrick Stewart and Sean Bean?
It's Sean Bean. I mean, to be fair, if you're going to spend all your budget on 2 actors, those are 2 pretty good ones.
Yeah, but you only had Patrick Stewart for 5 minutes.
Well, it was a really good 5 minutes.
Oh, my. So, one other thing I wanted to talk about is not quite the tone, but how the game handles you. Fallout 3, to me, it always felt like it was a very directed experience. And if you didn't do what the game wanted you to, it kind of talked down to you, in words. Especially the ending for Fallout 3, where if you did the intelligent thing, it literally called you a coward. In New Vegas, I never really felt that.
Yeah, I don't... It's a good point. I don't think New Vegas ever did that to you.
It feels like you have a lot... Well, I shouldn't say feels like. You do have a lot more freedom to approach things pretty much how you will. And you're also rewarded for going off the beaten track a little bit. Or, you're able to essentially skip components of a quest a lot freer than you are in Fallout 3. The Diptum quest to discover, what happened there, for example. There's a quest at the NCR outpost that will send you to Dipton to find out, that it's been attacked. Well, if you don't, go off the beaten track, and you miss that, you could go back later and you're rewarded with, I've already been there. And it is a little nod. And also some of the Easter eggs is also amusing. But it doesn't feel like, once again, I guess Borderlands 2 would be a good example of Easter eggs being there, but, references being there, but being over the top. Where, like, two of the people in the Great Khans camp is named Jack and Diane.
Not gonna lie, I've never noticed that before.
Yeah, the two drug dealers. They're Jack and Diane.
About Jack and Diane. Two American kids growing up in the heartland. Yeah. I've never noticed that before, but I'm gonna go look for it later.
Oh, there's so many Easter eggs. And it's not just quests, it's, Jack and Diane level stuff,
Yeah.
But maybe this just ties into the writing being a lot better in New Vegas, where they spent a lot more time world building, and Obsidian is better about building worlds. Bethesda is more about characters and characterization and lore, if that makes any sense between world and lore. I think the difference is Bethesda is better at doing a backstory, while Obsidian is better at doing a more current active world.
Yeah.
And that
makes sense.
And that comes across as a better gameplay experience because you're not as confined because they expect you to go off the beaten track. You're able to essentially cut out a good portion of the intro sequence because you're expected to go essentially across the map in this very circular pathway, having different encounters. But if you really wanted to, you could skip the entire sequence, but you have to be very careful in doing so. But they expect a certain set of players to be able to do that, so it's not required. While Bethesda, it feels a lot more game-breaking to sequence break like that. And maybe that's just, the different approaches of the two studios.
Yeah. Bethesda definitely learned from that for Fallout 4, though. There's tons of stuff you can do and then discover later. Like, oh, actually, I already completed that quest by doing the thing or by discovering it on my own or whatever. So
yeah, like I was coming back from my underground bunker and I stumbled across the fiends and I forgot about them. So I was able to start collecting heads for the NCR if I hadn't already pissed them off.
Yeah. So speaking of pissing off the NCR, I guess that's a good time to segue in, or a good way to segue into discussing the story a little more in depth. I mean, we're not going to go beat by beat on this because we would be here for even longer than it takes us to go through.
Yeah, and we also
Telltale games and stuff.
And we had two completely not completely different, but near completely different storylines because I went with Independent New Vegas with the Wild Card series, and you went NCR, right?
Yeah, and the first time I played, I went. I sided with House.
Yeah, which I was so tempted to do the Hugh Laurie mod to just changes the picture of House to Hugh Laurie. But I guess we should kind of do the overview of the factions as well because we highlighted what they are or named them, but we didn't really talk about them. We have Caesar's Legion, which is this massive empire coming from the east that is built upon slavery and fear. You have the NCR, which is essentially the old world government, but it's rife with corruption, and it's trying to expand quickly. And then you have House, which is essentially corporate America, right?
Yeah.
That is the interest of the businessman. And, if I could make a buck on helping somebody, maybe. But he also has more long-term goals. And House is a rather interesting one where House is one of the few characters that's been around since, well, at this time, I should say, story-wise, because, Fallout 4 and now Fallout 76 are going to add a lot more people to the distinction of being around pre-war. But House is, 200 some years old.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's done that by preserving himself, basically.
Yeah, he's in a Tupperware container.
Not basically. That's literally what, yeah, he pickled himself.
Yeah, not Kyle-wise pickling himself, but actually pickling. Yeah, and he is freaky. Did you ever see what House looks like?
Yeah. Yeah, I have seen what he looks like.
Yeah.
I've never done it in game. I just looked it up online at one point.
Well, you kind of have to game to do the independent line because you have to disable House.
You have to kill him.
Well, you don't. Yeah. No, you don't have to kill him.
Well, no, that's true. You can leave him to die because once you expose him, he's like, "I have no immune system left. I'm going to die of diseases or my age."
Mm-hmm.
Or you just kill him.
Or my bonitis. But yeah, there's 3 really different philosophies combating in this game, which makes it a lot more interesting in a story-wise. Not just good versus evil, because there's honestly looking at all the endings and all the breakdowns in the endings, because it's not just this faction won, but also your actions with each of the factions, all the minor factions, all the quests, plays into the overall slideshow at the end and gives you a different set of endings that you had. And
right, I completely forgot to mention that. We both did. Like, you gain reputation or lose reputation with the various factions and areas based on how you complete quests. I tended to play fairly good, so...
Yeah,
most of the settlements and everything benefited from my actions, and they really liked me. So I got the, I guess, air quotes, good ending.
Yeah, which honestly,
in that respect,
there's no real good ending because it's all shades of gray. Granted, some of them are rather dark, particularly the Legion, but there's no real, this is the perfect ending, which I actually really liked. That's something else that Fallout 3 had, was that it was a very black and white, good and evil ending, and that was it. This, across the board, it's shades of gray. And it makes it feel a lot more realistic because of it. Even if it is a little wacky at times, a gang of Elvis impersonators, for example.
The Kings, they're awesome. They're probably my favorite faction or favorite group in the whole game.
So are you going to show your son the Kings?
Yes, when he's old enough.
What's hilarious is that they don't realize that they're Elvis impersonators. They happened upon a school of impersonation for Elvis, and they thought it was a church. Because it's all dedicated to this one man, and because of radiation and damage and age, nobody was able to figure out the name of the king, so he was just the king. But everybody talks in a very bad Elvis impersonator voice, but are completely serious about it, and are in. Trying to remember what Elvis movie or outfit is based on. Because it is based on an Elvis movie, but I'm blanking on what one.
Oh, I don't know.
But and they're a good faction as well. They're not, they're trying to keep order in the outlying areas of New Vegas called Freeside, because what House has done is essentially cordoned off New Vegas to the rich portion and the poor portion of town. And in order to get into town, you have to essentially pass a credit check. Otherwise, you're in the slums. So, House is corporate America to a T, right?
Yeah.
It's there's just so many interesting little bits in the factions, Some of the towns, there's no good endings whatsoever for them. I think Novak, they're pretty much fucked no matter what. Because they have a bunch of radioactive waste from the nearby rocket facility, poisoning them over time. And, all the ghouls.
Yeah.
Even if you send them into space, which, yes, that's a thing as well.
Yep, I did that. I sent him to space.
Well, I was pressed for time, so I skipped it, but I did it in my previous run where I was actually NCR. So I know most of the NCR storyline. First person, I should say. And the NCR storyline, it's dealing a lot more with the corruption of the system. And having to deal with, them trying to overexpand. Because, did they ever really say why they're so eager to snatch up land outside of trying to get it instead of the Legion?
I think they're just trying to become the dominant power in what remains of the United States.
Or I do know that they talked a lot about supply issues back home, that they've grown too big to be able to sustain themselves, so they need more land. So there is that as well. So there's even the good guys are not exactly clean in this. And then you have the independent line, which essentially, when you start the game, you get shot in the head. And I would say about a quarter to a third of the way through the main storyline, you discover, or have the potential to discover, because you don't actually have to discover it, depending on certain speech checks. The plot that this guy was trying to perform to overthrow House and essentially take over New Vegas. Well, the courier that's your player character, by the way. You're actually is this the only Fallout game that you're not a vault dweller?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, maybe some of the strategy ones, but that's not in the mainline series, which I realize this one isn't either. But this is one of the few times that you're not a vault dweller.
Yeah, the only other game I can think of where you're not a Fallout dweller is Fallout. What is it? Brotherhood of Steel. Whether you're playing, it's the tactical or the strategy game, and you're playing as the Brotherhood of Steel, who are not vault dwellers.
Yeah. But
otherwise, I think
even though you do get a vault suit, but that was from the Doctor.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the Pit Boy as well, but. You discover this potential plot to be able to overthrow New Vegas and really do as you please. There's not a lot of canon of what happens, but it also allows for a lot more role play. So my character, by the end of things, was actually a member of the Followers of the Apocalypse as well. So I would like to think that my character was trying to make a better world for all instead of just the business interest of the Strip.
The Followers of the Apocalypse, those are the doctor people,
yeah, the
right?
doctor people, that essentially the counterpoint to the Brotherhood of Steel. They're trying to discover technology to help everyone instead of holding it to themselves and prevent the rise of technology again. So there's several factions that are directly counter to one another, and that's one of them. And of course, the two big ones, NCR and the Legion. It's such a shame that the Legion didn't get more story. I would have loved to, see more backstory on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just viewed my character as since he was in the Followers of the Apocalypse, and as he activated the Archimedes 2 death laser. Because, yeah, why wouldn't you have a giant orbital death laser, right?
A giant space laser. I did not do that. I didn't activate the laser.
Oh, I went
Like,
out
I
of
knew
my
it
way.
existed. I knew I could do it, but I chose not to.
I went out of my way to do it. And it also triggered one of the Brotherhood of Steel quests early. Because I got the weapon for it, the Veronica round.
Yeah, the little ray gun. Like toy-looking gun that the kids are playing with.
Yeah, and what's hilarious is the first time you use it, Veronica says, well, yeah, it works. I would have the firepower to be able to deal with, the Legion and the NCR. Granted, it is a once-a-day thing, but, they don't have to know that.
Yeah.
I viewed it as my position was a lot more solid. And I would try to support the followers of the Apocalypse. I was friends with the Kings. I still had my favor to the King of Kings.
Yeah, I was friends with the Kings as well.
I viewed myself as, trying to build a better New Vegas. Now, the question is, would I be able to in the long run? Because, you are a courier. You're not, someone that's dealt with these factions directly. It seems like you're constantly, weren't in the area. You're an outsider. But depending on how you handle things, you have the boomers, which are, these explosive crazed nut jobs that hang out in this military base and fire howitzers.
Yep.
Also known as my spirit animals.
Yep. And then it's the first, I believe, NCR quest, like, leading to the end game is you have to go convince them to join you. Or join the NCR.
The wild card is you have them support you directly and not your faction. The wild card has a quest called Side Best, which essentially it introduces you to, I think, 6 of the major minor factions, which I realize major minor. It's the Boomers, 2 of the factions that's in the Strip. The Brotherhood of Steel, which I just choose to ignore them because honestly, the Brotherhood of Steel as a faction is interesting, but they're irritating. And their quest line is very convoluted and frustrating. Granted, I was able to skip a good portion of it potentially because I got one of the items that they require to be able to continue, but I just didn't care for the Brotherhood of Steel. But also viewed the Brotherhood of Steel as more isolationist because of just how things were going for themselves, and not how the end game really was going to show things. Where they were a bunch of raiders essentially. Well, I didn't view them as that. I was viewing them as them wanting to continue to be cut off from society, which is fine by me. But let's see. I'm trying to think of who else. The Great Khans, which you're able to break the alliance with the Legion and make the final fight a lot easier. Also pisses off Caesar, which is a great bonus. And one other that I'm blanking on. Or maybe it is the Boomers for the last one, I don't know. But yeah, the wildcard storyline, it's essentially a spanner in the works, and it's a lot faster than all the other ones, really. Because you have a lot of options to really just skip things if you really wanted to. Like the side bets, you could go talk to them and say, I chose to ignore them. Let them deal with their own thing. But in the long run, I feel like that would have been a power destabilization thing, so I still did the storyline. A little bit of role-playing, a role-playing game.
Yeah.
But,
yep.
But, the game offers that option to you.
Yeah, which is great. I think it's good that it has that choice.
Which, I should say, the reason why this hard card or the side bets and the wild card exist is because of Yes Man, which is the Securitron that was hacked, not by Benny, but Benny paid someone to do it to essentially be overly helpful. And even when he disagrees with you, he's passive aggressive about it. And he's just awesome. always so happy to do things. Sort of like how they wanted to portray Claptrap only without the annoyance factor.
Less annoying. Or not annoying. Yeah, I mean, the NCR questline basically breaks down to doing stuff for them to secure their position in the area to be ready to maintain control of the Hoover Dam, which is like what the whole main plot revolves around, because the Hoover Dam is still functional and is the largest supplier of power to the whole region. And basically whoever controls the dam controls the area because they control the power supply. So, so I'm not familiar with the wild card ending. Like, okay. I know that if you side with House, like, he takes control of the dam, and capitalism, ho. The NCR, you defend the dam from the Legion, and maintain it, so the NCR remains the most powerful faction in the area. And then for the Legion, you assault the dam and take it over.
Okay, the wild card actually plays out a bit like the Legion one, where you are more sneaky about it, though, especially if you hadn't completely pissed off the NCR yet. Because how I did it was I did a few quests for the NCR, so I had my rep built up for them. So by the time I hit in-game, which I think that's... No, the final quest I believe is called No Masters, No Kings. I was able to just waltz right into the control room, and that's where I had my big fight with NCR. I was able to walk past everyone.
Gotcha.
Had a big fight with in the control room, and was able to send essentially an energy jolt to Fortification Hill, where all the Securitrons were, and raised my army. Then it was go fight the Legion. So the wild card is essentially a combination of the Legion and the NCR, where at first I'm fighting if I hadn't had the positive rep with them, I would have fought in against the NCR, taken over the control room, sent the energy jolt to kickstart all the production for the Securitrons, which had been upgraded. Because how you're at least supposed to play it, you don't have to, is you are kind of following the house line up to a certain point where you have a sudden but inevitable betrayal. With a little bit of NCR on the side, with really just pissing off the Legion the entire way, because there's this point in the Legion encampment where you're pretty much the point of no return for them, which is setting up the Securitron upgrades. So it's a sort of a mixture of the three. It's not its own thing, but that makes sense with how the plot of the story plays out. So then after the Battle of Hoover Dam and you defend it, you actually go into the Legion encampment and wipe it the fuck out. Caesar's already hot-tailed it back east, so you end up finding as second in command. Then after that, the NCR comes in and you have a couple speech checks that you're able to essentially just send them packing, but the last speed check is like an 80 or 85. And I didn't have that high. And I didn't have my magazine used, which that's another thing that's new to New Vegas, is you're able to do a temporary massive skill boost. But I didn't have it ready, so I failed the speech check, and then the NCR attacked me. Granted, the NCR was kind of surrounded by my Securitron army at this point. So I killed both armies at once.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds interesting. I might have to, when we're all done with this, take a little bit of a break and then come back and do the wildcard run. Yeah,
the wildcard run, I would suggest following along with the NCR a little bit, and a little bit of you're forced to go along with House for a while. But to make the end fight easier. But it really is supported a lot more if you do some of the side stuff and a lot of the little stuff that I wasn't able to do just because of time constraints. to essentially solidify your power base. The wild card run feels like the role play run, to be perfectly honest. Because it feels like a courier would come in and see the corruption of the NCR and probably have firsthand experience with it, see the evil of the Legion, and see House for the slimy scumball that he is, and say, fuck it. Or just wander off into the waste and do his own thing. Speaking of his own thing, since we didn't take a break in between segments, I'm going to take one now.
So where were we? Where were you?
Well, I was mostly talking about how the wild card could really just be called the spanner in the works, because it's really I would say two major betrayals. Caesar, one against Caesar, trying to get you to destroy whatever a House has in his bunker because he doesn't know, and his reasoning for not wanting to send someone down is interesting. Did you ever talk to him about it?
No.
Because you did say you did a house run, right?
Yes, that was
there's also the
out of food.
Well, there's the opportunity to do it without ever talking to Caesar as well, depending on once again speech checks in the tops, one of the casinos there. You could just kill Benny outright.
The first run that I did was a house run, but that was years ago, closer to like something like 2011 or 2012.
Well,
so some of the nuances I've forgotten of that.
His main reason for not wanting to send someone down isn't for fear of what's down there to his troop. It's the idea of what could be down there. Because he doesn't want to show a potential victory where flesh and blood isn't involved. That it's just rivets and bolts that could be spilt. He doesn't want to instill that idea. And even if he kills the person that goes down and destroys whatever there is, he's afraid of that idea leaking out. So he's waiting for you because he knows that you are chasing Benny because you are exceptionally pissed off about getting shot. Which makes you wonder, why are you so pissed with Benny? Because by that point, I'd been shot quite a bit.
Well, he shot first.
Oh, the Han Solo effect.
Yeah.
If he didn't kill Greedo, Greedo would have just been chasing him all across the galaxy. Now it makes sense. Plus, the snazzy suit. There is that as well.
You like the snazzy suit.
There was actually, Benny was supposed to be a potential companion at one point as well. But he was cut for time. That's why he just disappears after he's released, if you release him.
Yeah, I always kill him.
I left him for a crucifixion.
Oh my.
Hey, you do not fuck with me.
Fair play. Fair play.
Or, okay, you can fuck with me, but you better not leave me in a shallow grave. But, yeah, that's the first one. And the other one is, of course, against House, either disconnecting him or just killing him outright. And honestly, House's hubris really got the better of him. Not just, the fact that he gave the courier free run of the casino, but the fact that he was behind such light defenses. I mean, he was behind, well, depending on how you did it, either a 70 skill check on signs to be able to hack the terminal, or you just had to find one of the key cards, which I accidentally did on my first run ages ago. And during one of the encounters with House, I was just messing around in his room, and I found the terminal, and I was like, oh, what does this do? And then I got killed.
Well done, sir.
But
well done.
But between you and House is only 2 Securitrons? Which, granted,
they're not that hard to kill.
In story, they're supposed to be a lot tougher, but you're practically godlike. And by this point, I was in full power armor, and my 3 human companions were in pretty high end armor. It wasn't until I did Veronica's quest which I feel really bad for Veronica. Veronica doesn't have a happy ending no matter what. But her quest line, if depending on how you do it, you could get essentially jumped by the Brotherhood of Steel, and they donated a few more sets of power armor to the cause, and a Gatling laser.
Yay, Gatling laser.
Yeah, which I didn't really use. I did use the Gauss rifle though. That was fun.
I love the Gauss rifle. One of the most fun weapons. One of the best weapons in the game, I think.
Well, the underground bunker has this hidden storeroom of weapons, and one of them is called Pinpoint, which is just this absolutely nasty sniper rifle, which also has night vision on it. And also had a bloody mess, so, it wouldn't just, kill someone, their head would just fly off. Oh, bloody mess was so much fun.
Yeah, I love the bloody mess perk.
Yeah, pretty much, I would say 75%, 80% of the time, at least the limb goes flying. Even from, just getting shot with a BB gun.
Or punching somebody with your bare fist and watching both their arms pop off and their head, explode. It's like, yes, I want this in my game.
Yeah, and I was also running Wild Wasteland, so, during the Battle of Hoover Dam, there were, a few things there, like, the radio starts playing, "Game over, man, game over!" Or, in, Cottonwood, where you your first real major encounter with the Legion encampments. Well, actually, they only one, because there's the fort and the Cottonwood. That's the two major encampments for the Legion, because most of their stuff got cut from the game. There's in Latin, Romans Go Home from Life of Brian. You can encounter Indiana Jones in his refrigerator.
Yep, I've seen that. Don't you have to have the Wild Wasteland?
Yeah, I was running Wild Wasteland.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm mentioning some of the Wild Wasteland stuff. It doesn't detract from the tone overall. I mean, granted, in some of the DLCs, it's a little bit more silly, but it's fun,
Yeah. I've never played any of the DLCs for New Vegas before, so...
Yeah, next month is going to be fun. I only really messed with one of them, but I know a little bit of the story from the others. I am so looking forward to Old World Blues. You have no idea.
Nope, I've never played it, so looking forward to that.
Oh, well, I'm not going to spoil anything for it, but think of essentially the tone of Portal.
Okay.
Only more gritty. Science gone
this
mad.
Will be interesting.
And in my opinion, it's the best DLC, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So, NCR, is there anything really stand out about it outside of just submitting their position?
No, there really isn't. I mean, you go on. I think there's 4 or 5 quests total that make up that line. A couple of them are longer, but no, the boomers are really the most interesting part of that, getting them to join the NCR. Otherwise, it's just like your errand boy for a while, making sure that, some people get to where they need to go, and, killing the right members of the Legion, and going against House's wishes. And then the big final battle.
Yeah, the main storyline for Wildcard is really broken down into just a handful of quests, but side bets takes quite a while to be able to do, because it's introducing you to, and it calls you to go through a large chunk of the primary storylines or primary factions. So it's Wildcard Ace in the Hole, which is where you get introduced to the Yes Man. Change in Management, which find the Platinum Chip, kill/disable House, and install Yes Man into the Lucky 38's mainframe. Side Bets, which is where you make a contact with the 5 tribes. So I was misremembering how many. It's Brotherhood of Steel, White Glove Society, Omenas, Great Khans, and Boomers, and decide whether or not they should be ignored or as threats or not. and deal with them. Then you and what army go to House's bunker at the fort and upgrade the Securiton army. And then just the final one. I mean, it's not that complicated of a storyline, but if you don't choose to skip a lot of it, it allows you to really accelerate things. And the final quest is No Gods, No Masters, which is essentially just, the two versions of the Hoover Dam battle kind of mashed together. Because I imagine the NCR, you also go into the Legion camp, right?
Yeah, you go and you wipe them out. The final mission is called Eureka. You defend the dam and then go kill the Legion. Or go kill their camps. So, based on some of the stuff that you've done and how well it played out, you can get additional assistance from the NCR. You get like sniper support, additional artillery support. I think if you've done everything perfectly and you pass a skill check, I'm not sure if it's just a skill check or if you have to also do everything perfectly, but I did both. I got the best outcomes for the quest and passed the final skill check. But you get a whole bunch of troops that follows you into the final battle, and basically makes that trivial.
Yeah, for me, because I was going in as independent, the final or the first part of the battle would have been just me versus the NCR troops that was there in my little group, of course. My army doesn't show up until really after the main fight, to be perfectly honest, and going into the Legion encampment, which I have to admit, watching the Securitrons go nuts in the Legion camp was fun. The only really oddball thing, or the thing that's outside the major stories, is just a quick visit to a power generator to be able to essentially jumpstart a reactor that's hidden in the Lucky 38 to make New Vegas completely energy independent. So the story behind the independent New Vegas is that all the power provided by the Hoover Dam can be sold off to be able to support the independence of New Vegas as a power. So the NCR still gets what they really want, to be perfectly honest, outside of the land. Because most of what they wanted was the power.
Right. Okay. Yeah, at some point I'm going to have to go back and do that, I think.
Yeah, it just feels like the independent New Vegas, the wild card, is more of the role play one than anything else, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I have any final thoughts to add.
I will say that the game,
thorough, particularly.
I will say that the game definitely shows both its age and the fact that it was rushed.
Yeah,
but it just shows how good it is overall, and it actually turns out that you do go to the power substation to make New Vegas energy independent anyway during the House campaign. I was just looking around on this. During the House Always Wins 7. Looks like the House quest line is a lot more broken down into individual steps, though. But then again, you're following a mastermind.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely shows its age, particularly in its graphics. There were some things that just were cut for time, or the console limitations or engine limitations. In the original trailers for the game, several areas that later was shown as that later became individual areas were one continuous area, like the strip was one zone to be in the trailers, but in the game itself, it's cordoned off into 3 different sections? Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
So part of that is the engine, because personally, Bethesda's engine just was not up to scratch to begin with, to be perfectly honest. Oh, so many things I could say about the Game Bureau engine. I just really wish New Vegas had the time to really become what it was meant to be. I would love to see a remaster at some point. And maybe if it was given the attention, some of the cut content put back in. But then again, some of that cut content really can't go in because of the DLC. Like, well, for example, one of the antagonists was going to be a companion. But he ended up becoming something so much more. But that's next month.
Indeed. What a little tease there. And speaking of next month's Game Club, like we already said earlier in this episode, we're going to be doing specifically the DLC.
So
for Fallout
that would
Vegas.
be Honest Hearts. I'm blanking on the second one.
I guess I could go pull up.
Yeah. Honest Hearts, Dead Money, Old World Blues, and The Lonesome Road.
Sweet.
Which, honestly, out of all of them, I'm looking forward most to Old World Blues and The Lonesome Road to talk about. And that one's going to be probably closer to our beat by beat, but not quite.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're going to, unless there's some crazy additional mechanics that have been added, we've already had that discussion and the comparisons and stuff like that.
Well, I do know that there's a severe tonal difference in one of the DLCs. I'm not sure if I should mention what one. Well, there's actually two tonal differences, but I already mentioned Old World Blues being very campy, 50s sci-fi.
That'll be good.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. And also, all the different DLCs have different weapons that they incorporate and different companions. So we'll have to see how we think about the DLCs next month, though. And we did.
Indeed.
And I did mention that we were going to do Captain Spirit. The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit for September. Well, I was mostly wanting to give the run-up for Dwarf Fortress for our scary, scary game in October. Give people time to be able to start absorbing that game. Because I know I'm about to.
Yeah. I'll have to get started on that too.
Yeah, this is going to be the scariest game we could possibly do.
Who knows? Maybe it'll click with me and I'll really like it. We'll see.
And as long as your laptop doesn't burst into flames, it's a good work game for you.
Yeah. We'll see. I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot. So, moving on to a little bit of news.
Yeah, we're at the 2 hour and some change mark. We got time for some news.
Yeah.
It turns out we ended up talking about games a lot more than we intended.
And, yeah.
Well, not just New Vegas.
And Game Club. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
yeah, don't doubt the hour mark on games we played.
The main news topic of the week, a Steam game is accused of scamming players and crypto mining.
Oh.
So this is interesting, and also not good, but interesting.
Yeah, really. Yeah, and this definitely goes against the whole, wide open market that Steam wants to do. I don't agree with them doing, you cannot have adult games. You cannot have the anime boobies. But at the same time, there has to be a little bit of, this game isn't a fucking virus. So, this wasn't just one game. This was actually 3 games, but one got the most attention because of something else it was doing. And I'm trying to find which game it was exactly. Astratrium? It was essentially a really, really, really crappy vertical platformer. But what they were doing was they tied the game into Steam's drop system and did it in such a way where you had to leave the game running for about 40-ish hours a week. And you also had to have it on at a very particular time. Well, people started scanning this game, and it was starting to hit some positives on virus scanners. And it turns out that this game may have had a crypto miner built into it. Not Bitcoin, but something else. Did they actually say which one?
Monaro,
Monaro,
I believe, is the coin.
I don't know this coin, so.
It's a relatively popular coin, unless it's really like fallen out since last time I checked. I believe Monaro was in like 7th or 8th place in terms of like how much value it has.
But anyway, what they were doing was they had allegedly, because I haven't seen any hard evidence on this. I've seen some people posting positives on virus scanners, but I haven't seen a breakdown on it. But what they were doing was supposedly embedding this Monaro miner into the game, and as the game ran, which honestly the game required no horsepower whatsoever to run, and as the game collected its drops, it would also mine out the Monero coin and then send off the hashes when the game did a manual reset on its drops. So the game had to actually be running on a Friday to be able to get the drops reset. And it also happened to supposedly send off the hashes that it computed. Oh, what a scummy thing to begin with. But the drops were designed in such a way that they looked like TF2 items, some of them. Some of them were memes to, be able to get the kids interested. The Pepe Frog and some of the more popular memes on the internet.
Yeah, there's one about like a gay pan or something like that, or a gay pot.
The gay key and the gay crate and the gay key, which looked like a butt plug.
Yeah, I chuckled with that.
And various flags and that sort of thing, but and some of them were going for quite a few bucks because they had the artificial scarcity to begin with, and there were things that other Steam games were offering, but then you had the items that looked like like the TF2 golden frying pan, which is several hundred some of the TF2 items that they were emulating were several $100s. The golden frying pan being $1,500 to $2,000, and it looked like an item from TF2. And even they changed the name on the item to Team Fortress 2, so it's not just it's a fake golden frying pan so you can put it on your profile. No, it was built specifically to scam.
Yeah, was that the one where no, it was the rocket launcher, whatever that one was called, where the guy like got scammed for $100 on it because it looked exactly like the ultra rare. Yeah. I'm not a big Team Fortress 2 guy.
Well, I've fallen out on Team Fortress 2, but I do know the golden frying pan, and there was a few other ones that were popular that they were also emulating. And the way they had it set up was that the item dropped from the game. If you trade it through the Steam trading interface, it looked exactly like you would expect. So it makes me wonder, how were they able to build this without Valve noticing? Because supposedly that's been going on for quite a while. It's just recently got the headlines. Especially considering they changed the name on the game items to Team Fortress 2. How the hell does that not set off some sort of flag, right?
Yeah, well, on the Sid Alpha video, they changed it real quick after it got called out, but it still says on the URL it has the Team Fortress 2 name of the thing. I assume they changed it so fast to try and avoid getting in trouble with.
Yeah, well, it didn't work because they got pulled, as well as a couple others that's been linked to crypto mining. One of which is hilariously called Bitcoin Miner. This is the problem with the completely open market and Valve wanting to just be reactionary. Because
Yeah.
They don't want to do any curation, which, okay, they don't want to arbitrate taste, but at the same time, they should at least have some sort of legal liability to make sure that the games aren't viruses. Is that too much to ask?
A Valve? Yeah, probably. Yeah, this whole thing is really
Fascinating
interesting.
And
I would suggest that anyone follow the link and watch the Sid Alpha video. He does a really good job of breaking this down.
Yeah, it is a little long-winded, admittedly, but he
it's
goes
like 10 or 12 minutes long, something like that.
Yeah, but he goes in depth on everything on it.
Yeah. And I like the point that he makes, like, this might be the replacement for the asset flip. People getting better and better about sliding this kind of stuff in there.
Especially since so many games are building themselves around the player marketplace.
Yeah.
I mean, find an item that is popular, that's selling quickly, that's expensive. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me at this point that the next asset, or what do we even call this outside just scam? Market scam? Market cloner?
Market cloner.
Market item cloner? Does it for PUBG items. Because that's also a popular thing on the Steam market. And they wouldn't be messing with Valve directly. Because honestly, I think that's what really got them pulled so quickly, was they were messing with the director of the marketplace that they're dealing with. Granted, PUBG has really fallen off. I'm looking at the most popular items on the Steam marketplace, and I'm only seeing one PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds items on the front page. And that's only $100, you know?
Yeah. Only. I don't know how much there is to add to this topic.
It's just the astonishment.
You did a really good job explaining it.
Yeah, it's the astonishment of it, you know? I wouldn't have thought that the market could be turned like this, and it just shows how crazy things are getting.
Yeah.
I mean, this is worse than anything on the Android store. I mean, you see all sorts of clones and all sorts of crappy asset flips, but you don't see that many outright scams like this, do you?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm sure there's a few that have happened somewhere, but I mean, as far as I know, to this degree, like hijacking and using your device to mine a cryptocurrency.
And not just mine
not that I know of.
Cryptocurrency, but also completely emulate an item from a competitor to be able to scam people.
Yeah.
And
well, there's plenty of that. Plenty of faking that you're...
Yeah, but doing it so that, it looks completely legitimate. To the point that Valve actually has to put a Band-Aid on their trading system so that if you're trading for an item that or a game that you've never played, or the game is new on the Steam store, it has to do a pop-up. Because that's something Valve just quickly implemented to try to prevent something else from happening again. So maybe this is going to prevent it, but honestly, you gotta... this is going to sound very cynical on me, but what the hell? No matter all the warnings, no matter all the cautions, there's always going to be the stupid person, you know?
Yeah. Although there might be something that's been happening with this. Now that I think of it, the Play Store has removed all cryptocurrency mining apps from it. And they're actively not allowing or removing any apps that get added that are cryptocurrency miners. I mean, you can still get them, but you can't get them directly from the Play Store. You have to download them from like a website or, a third-party app vendor.
Yeah, so maybe there was something that was going on, but because we're not plugged into the mobile scene, because we're not cool like that, we're not hip with the kids.
Yeah, like I just remembered I read something about that a week ago or so.
It's just more of just pure astonishment about this entire thing, really, than anything else. Because this is something that, this is almost on the level of some of the Eve heists that I've heard, where people pretended to be something for years.
Yeah, and then they flipped the switch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, went in, killed their boss, took over New Vegas. Not that I would know anything about that.
Yeah. Not a thing. Okie dokie. Moving on to our other news topic, because this won't take long either. The PUBG Corp details its 5-year esports plan, but they also say they're not esports ready.
Yeah, mostly I did this to chuckle at where they announced they weren't esports ready. Because I told you, and you got a good laugh out of it. They announced this at their invitational tournament.
Yeah, we're not esports ready at our esports tournament.
Yeah, it's... Huh? I do think that they're done right. Battle Royale could be a really compelling esport, but it can't be shot like you do StarCraft. It can't be a live stream because there's so many small fights and so many things that you have to follow. I really, really, really think okay, probably not PUBG, but because PUBG seems to want to piss off everyone.
Yeah.
But using PUBG as kind of the generic battle royale, because it kind of is. Shots fired?
Oh, yeah.
I would say that a edited, 2-3 minute delay so that, it could be edited on the fly between different camera people, different observers following major firefights, following the big players in the game, could be a really compelling thing. I mean, I just go back to constantly this video of Jeopardy or behind the scenes, the director directing all the camera movements, and I would love to see a battle royale game where someone like that is directing all the camera shots instead of having this long sweeping overlooking thing where you can't see shit because the person that's commentating is also trying to handle the camera and the game doesn't really have a good observer mode. Instead, just have dedicated camera teams and have a dedicated director and let the commentators commentate. And I think the Battle Royale genre is trying to emulate Rocket League. They're trying to emulate StarCraft. In that they're doing a single camera with the commentator directly influencing the camera movements, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I like that idea. Because, I mean, if you're... Different esports have to be filmed differently, just like different real-life sports have to be filmed differently. Like, there's less difference, I think, between various real-life sports and how you have to film them, but, I mean, there are differences.
Okay, I would say, this is probably a very bad example, but the difference between how basketball is shown versus how baseball is shown.
Right.
Where baseball has a lot more camera movement, a lot more different shots. That could be how Battle Royale is handled, where they have a dozen different observers following around and are swapped to, instead of trying to follow with one, maybe two observers, especially with such a huge map. Granted, towards the end, it would be a little bit overkill, but in the beginning where things are a lot more interesting, I would say Battle Royale is most interesting in the very beginning and the very end. In the middle portion...
Yeah, the middle bits are very boring.
Yeah. So, the very beginning would be where all those cameras are very useful. And then at the end, they could set up a lot more variance in the shots. Have it where someone is followed closely, but also follow the overall battle, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a really good way to do it, I think. I mean, there could potentially be another way, but I can't think of anything, like, better to do it offhand, you know? Just maybe something a little more traditional, like you follow certain players around, but I mean, if they die, then you got to move on for the rest of the match.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that you can't really do independent streams of the major players because the way Battle Royale is handled, you know, you could die at any time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, with this 5-year plan, they don't even, at least in the article, really detail what it is. Just they have a 5-year plan. And honestly, that's a little presumptuous of themselves because, you know, not even the fact that, you know, PUBG has had a downturn in player base outside of China, but, you know, expecting to be relevant in 5 years. I mean, it's like, the MOBA genre. That's still very popular, but is it as relevant? The MMO genre. The World War II shooter genre. Gaming moves in cycles, and it's a lot shorter than 5 years. And I really think that the Battle Royale fad isn't going to last 5 years. Particularly once the AAA games start cashing in this year.
Yeah, we'll see. I think like most other things, there will be one or two that hang on. Probably Fortnite. Maybe PUBG. I mean, it's still number 2, but it doesn't seem to have as much... I mean, it's nowhere near as unique or interesting. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, their big thing that they're planning on is regional professional PUBG leagues with Europe, North America, China, and Korea planned for next year. And additional regions may be added in 2020 with a world championship bringing winners together at the end of the year. And these leagues will reportedly have a more traditional format following a regulation system as opposed to the franchise system used by other esports, whatever that means. It's kind of funny that they're talking about financing esports, but they are saying that they don't have the money for custom servers.
Yeah. You know what? I'm just not gonna...
I'm not going to take that bait?
Just not going to go there. I'm just not going to go there. Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt my feelings to see a properly edited Battle Royale game as an esport. I think that would be very interesting. But the thing is, I think it goes in the face of what's popular, where it's instant gratification. You know, you have to see it happen as soon as possible. So, and also the nature of Twitch, where, you know, it's a 10-second delay usually, and people get pissed whenever you have, you know, multiple minute delays.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, you would maybe not... You said 3 minutes earlier, didn't you? It might not have to be that long.
Yeah, well, I was using that as a, you know, a very wide buffer. But,
gotcha.
You know, even a live director, you know, I mean... If you've never seen it, go look at the Jeopardy behind the scenes in that director. Someone that knows how to direct and have proper camera people able to line up the shots. I would say it would be exceptionally interesting, but that requires a lot more back-end stuff that's not as apparent. And maybe that's the thing, is that, you know, it's not, you know, some guy sitting on the E3 stream eating Totino's pizza rolls, right?
Pizza rolls.
Oh, damn, that was cringy as hell, wasn't it?
Yeah. Made me want pizza rolls, though, so it did its job.
It made me never want to touch another fucking pizza roll. So it didn't do its job for me.
Fair play, I guess?
So I guess between the two of us, you know, zero-sum game.
Yeah, it balanced out.
As all things should be?
Indeed.
But yeah, maybe it's just, you know, the reason why that doesn't happen is that it's, you know, not as apparent. Or, you know, there's a certain expectation where it's, you know, a little janky. which could be said for PUBG to begin with. Yes, I went there.
Indeed. PUBG is very janky. Very, very janky. Alrighty.
And they can't help but shoot themselves in the foot. Much like us.
Yeah, we don't shoot ourselves in the foot.
But what we do shoot is Discovery Queue.
Yeah, let's run through it pretty quick. It's after midnight. So, but we can go through right quick, fast, and in a jiffy.
Oh my.
So doobly doo for that Discovery Queue.
And I got a JRPG immediately that looks interesting. Wise Memories of Cedria?
Selketa, I think. That was the first one that I got too. But you beat me to it.
Yeah.
So you talk about it.
I mean, pretty much your traditional ARPG, action-oriented, I should say, not prepper ARPG, JRPG. Looks like some sort of interesting map overworld mechanic where you're slowly discovering the map, at least from the screenshots. I'm not familiar with the series, so...
Neither am I.
I think it's one of the, not the major JRPGs, but it's a pretty big one. Looks like there's some camera issues though, and there's some minor game freezing issues according to some of the reviews, which is bad. And there's some people saying that it's having crashing issues as well. But if they could patch it, it would work out. It looks like it released a few days ago. Very colorful. It does look like it's a little older though. It has some very obvious polygons in it.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Just Cause 4. I mean, that was the fourth Just Cause game, so you kind of know what you're expecting. But I mean, I've been a huge fan of the Just Cause series since its inception, so seeing the fourth one makes me pop up, makes me a little bit excited. Releasing December 4th right now. Did they give an official announcement at E3 for a release date? Do you remember?
I'm not sure.
I think this is the first that we've gotten a release date of. I mean, I'm not going to pre-order it, obviously. Thou shalt not pre-order, but...
Mega Man X Legacy Collection. Mega Man on PC. Interesting.
Not the biggest Mega Man fan personally, but still, that's really cool.
Never played it growing up. But Mega Man is a major franchise for the Nintendo era. Looks like it requires an internet connection on game launch, though, so that's a definite no-no.
Yep, that is no bueno.
Yeah, it's not an activation. It's online to be able to launch. So, hey, Capcom, you done fucked up. Why are you DRMing Mega Man so heavily? Especially Mega Man X. This is an older game, isn't it?
Yeah, Mega Man X was 90s? Early 90s?
And this is a Mega Man X collection, so... it's an older collection because it's in 4x3.
I mean, all those games are emulated at this point, so...
I mean, it's not that expensive to begin with. It's $20. Yeah, it's expensive for an old collection, but still.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's Sonic. Popular, so... classic, so that's probably what they're charging.
And I got another one.
I also have one. Gaia. It doesn't look great, but the sci-fi base building survival game, that pretty much has me interested. So we'll see. It doesn't release until 2019, and even then it says it's going to be early access, so I'll watch it and see if it looks like it's going to turn into anything or not.
Well, I got the Banner Saga 3, which is this massive CRPG saga at this point. What's interesting about it, that you don't see that often these days, is that the choices from the previous games carries over, sort of like how Mass Effect was supposed to.
Yeah.
And supposedly it makes some real difference in the storyline. The first two are given out for the prom day giveaways on Twitch by the time you're listening to this last month. Well, I guess technically now last month. So, yeah, it's a very, very interesting thing. I would say that it's probably best to go back and play the first one first, like you do. But yeah, just some stunning art in this. I mean, this is one game series that I need to go play, and I got the first two now. I was actually holding off on picking them up until after the third one came out. But hey, free is free, right?
Free is free.
And I'm still clicking
my queue's finished. I only had 2.
Well, I'm skipping some of these. Oh, I just got Gaia.
Nice. It's been a couple shared this time.
And I got some really crap ones. And some that, would interest other people. Like just got Farming Simulator 19. But I'm not going to put that on my queue. But hey, Jim would love it. And
yep.
That wraps up my queue. I didn't have a lot of really good ones.
So I had 2 and you had 3.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, we'll move on from this to the part of the podcast where I go first.
Well, while you go first, I'm going to get up and stretch.
Okay. If you want to see my content on the YouTubes, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. And I just want to give a quick thank you to the few subscribers that have subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you are also indeed podcast listeners, or maybe you listen to the podcast when I put it up on my YouTube channel. Regardless, thank you very much. If you want to see me tweet all sorts of things, you can do so by going over to @JMA4707 on Twitter. Follow me there. I haven't had too many tweets this past weekend. I was pretty busy though with some personal stuff that I didn't want to tweet about, so nothing there. But sometimes there's politics, sometimes there's video games, sometimes I'm just silly. You never know what I'm going to tweet about. Also, if you want to see me over on Twitch, you can go to twitch.tv/jarthur4707. Haven't been streaming here lately, but I have been posting the episodes as Twitch premieres so that people can watch live if they would like to do so. Finally, if you want to be my friend on Steam, you can do so by sending me a friend request. My username is jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests from people who send them to me, and so far, everyone has been very nice and kind and lovely. Lovely, lovely people sending me friend requests on Steam.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is Johnny Guitar.
Nice.
Yeah, it seemed like every time I was near a radio in New Vegas, Johnny Guitar was playing. Was that for you as well, or?
I tend to not listen to the radio in the Fallout games.
No. I'm not talking about.
No. I know. Whenever you wander up near places that have radios too, but I honestly don't pay attention to it. So maybe, maybe not.
It has this really slow pace that just kind of drew my attention, I guess. And plus, I kind of enjoy that type of music anyway, but I got a little tired of Johnny Guitar.
Fair play. What about you, buddy? Where can they find you on the interwebs?
Oh, well, you can find me over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage, where, in theory, I would have a lot more stuff going on, but New Vegas has monopolized a lot of time to be able to get jump-started again. Maybe I just need to take over an electrical substation and get the reactor jump-started, you know? But RimWorld's still ongoing. Have some interesting things going on there. After, I would say, 5 or 6 poison ships in a row, I got a raid and also an infestation to deal with in the next few episodes. So, yeah. That's going to be fun. Hoping to try to get other stuff going. It's just, it takes a lot of time, and I'm wanting to get through Gameclub stuff. So I focused on that. And, yeah, also was trying to do the Sunday Sampler, but just recording issues. The tactical screens on This Is the Police 2 just would not behave themselves. I was just having way too many lockups to want to risk it. Granted, I probably could have done an edited version, but that would have required too much time to be able to, edit, because I don't, slapdash editing like, our all-powerful editor. I take way too much time.
Indeed.
Awkward silence.
Did you get lost?
No, I was waiting for you. No, it sounded like you were about to say something, so.
Oh, no, I just said indeed when you talked about slapdash editing.
Well, I didn't hear indeed. I heard.
Oh. My mistake. It's fine. I'll fix it in post.
No, you won't. Because that would require more than slapdash. But yeah, hopefully get the Sunday sampler out this week. It's just, it's a very chaotic thing to begin with. And whenever I have something that is great until about 3 or 4 hours in, then I start hitting the recording issues. Yeah, it's a little hard to recover from that, particularly when I was already counting on doing that with the embargo in place. But that's beside the point. So yeah, I'll try to get more content out sooner rather than later. We still need to record some spin tires this week, assuming you're going to be awake for that.
We do indeed.
And they just announced a DLC for that as well. A paid DLC.
Yeah,
a couple of new maps. Yeah.
Sweet.
But we need to figure out the workshop maps, because some of them look fun. And then and some of them look fun. But you can find all that over on Gaming with Caffeine Rage, or you just see me tweet about who knows what, who knows when, over on the Twitter, Gaming with a CR. I think my last thing was bitching about my internet connection. Turns out someone rolled a truck into a utility pole and knocked my connection out for 13 or 14 hours.
Yep, that'll do it.
I was not pleased. But what really pissed me off was, call the customer support. They say, there's an outage in your area, and hang up on you. Yeah. But yeah, Gaming with CR on the Twitters. And since we're talking about Twitters, there's also the podcast Twitter, VGL Podcast on the Twitter, or VGLpodcast@gmail.com, where you can send letters, voicemails, game-related topics, questions, which we should do a question sometime in the near future, because we've kind of been neglecting that.
It's been a little bit.
Yeah, and something we won't neglect is to mention our Patreon, patreon.com/VGL Podcast, which pays for our Podbean account, VGLpodcast.podbean.com, which hosts the RSS feed, as well as the show notes, or it just goes through iTunes, Google Play, but not Squeaker, or whatever the hell it is.
Spreaker?
Squeaker, whatever. Fuck them, right?
Indeed.
But we won't fuck Kevin McLeod, who provides our intro and outro music on the ground, or doobly-doo, the Discovery Cue music, by the same artist. And you can find him at incompetech.com. And?
As always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Well, bye now.
See you next time.
The song that sticks out to me the most from the Fallout series is still I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire from Fallout 3. That trailer, that very first trailer, I think it was the E3 trailer back in, 06, 07?
It has that sort of haunting, lilting quality to it already, which really fits the Fallout series.
Maybe I'll put that in here, because this will be the post
banter.
Post outro banter.
Well, I'll tell you what's fucking popular here is this Fallout 76 stuff. It's just crazy how popular it is in West Virginia.
take me home.
The irony of it all, the irony of it is, the song isn't even about West Virginia. No, really.
Yeah.
If you look at the lyrics and look at a fucking map, Maryland and Virginia, it doesn't have a damn thing to do with West Virginia outside of mentioning the state.
Yeah.
And some people, retcon it, say, well, maybe he's wanting to go to West Virginia. No, the artist never went.
Well, maybe he went, but not during the song. Oh.
Honestly, with some of the stuff that goes on here, it would be getting the hell out of here.
Indeed. Bye-bye.
Oh.